Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Alright, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in us. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna let it rain.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since I'm down in Boulders, folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Well, I can't speak for y'all, but I got to say that song by Robin Houston, or Robin Huston, however she pronounces her name, Light It Up, gets me fired up. Fire in the hole, ready to get going. Boy, that is pretty cool, and really enjoyed that video that I put together for my opening credits after all the bogus copyright claims against public domain music for my previous one that was produced by Joe Emilio and paid for by my viewers about 3 years ago. So we're using this one for the now, but I will be adjusting that and using some other music, making a few other intros. But thanks and welcome back to the program, folks. I'm not wearing rugby kit today. I'm wearing hockey memorabilia. This is the Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup champions from last season. Once again, as usual, Vulture shopping. Purchased this for 80% off, so got this at a reasonable price a few weeks back, and first chance to wear it is today. See, it's fresh out of the box, a few wrinkles in it there. Welcome back to the program, folks. I did a short a few moments ago talking about Fikile Mabalula, the Secretary General of the African National Congress, and explaining why the ANC suspended former President Jacob Zuma from the ruling party. You should watch my short. Welcome to the program. There's Dylan Combrick in here at the very beginning. Ants is back once again. John Jarvis. Hey, John, how's it going? We're going to talk about your southern border issues, Texas and the convoy I'm following, but others may not be. I had no plans to talk about the southern border issue today. We've beaten that horse to death. It's a dead mule. If you got a question about it, John, sorry, I'm taking my shoes off because they're disturbing me. I was just outside to record that video. So if you've got a question about it, John, I'll just make sure it pops up there and I'll try to address it. But no, I didn't have a plan to address that specifically today. I've got talk about Nancy Pelosi today. Going to talk about Sparky Bowman, Sparky Jamal Bowman, the fire alarm man. Going to talk about him. Let's see what else. Sanctions just warming up. He's wholly screwed. Yeah, the ANC has really put themselves in it. They thought that taking the money from Iran, if they did that, was the smart move, but it's not. East of here, what's this? Good evening, says Frederick and White Army, Mega 2024, and Go Texas Go. All right, Frederick, thank you for that. Vilma Rasmus is here, and she says, I'm not going to be on long, busy, moving to a new place. Oh, I hope it's an upgrade, Vilma. I hope that you're getting something better and not downsizing. Although some people like to downsize. I'd like to upsize. I'd like to have a mansion, but I don't have one of those. I do hear a helicopter, though. Are the black helicopters coming for me? Folks, if I disappear in the next few minutes, it's because the black helicopters have come. Eric is, well, if it was the black helicopters, I wouldn't hear them, right? Right? I mean, isn't that the point? Didn't you see Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson? You don't hear the black helicopters. They're in whisper mode. Can't hear them if they're in whisper mode. A few people sent me email messages. I was negligent in getting around to it. There's a super chat from Courtney. Thank you for that, Courtney. End of the month. You're trying to help us get over that threshold. Thank you for that, Courtney. Do appreciate that. Yeah, so if there were black helicopters, we wouldn't be hearing them. They'd be in whisper mode. I've seen enough movies. That's right. So we've got Vilma said hello. She's going to be here a short time. Garrett is back. Says good evening, everyone. And Ken Aronson's back. Good to see Ken there. And Courtney says hello. USPS gave me a day off. Oh, cool. You're watching this show live. Good to see you, Courtney. Sorry, I only cough when I'm sitting down talking the show for the most part. Hakan Engman is in from the Netherlands. Laudie Monday is back from the Western Cape. Olaf is here. Good evening, Olaf. And Erica says she hadn't received the email. Perhaps you got the spelling wrong. And then Olaf is talking about Afrikaans. Anne-Marie Nell is here despite the fact that it's a Formula One free day. Arctic is back once again. Arctic must have the day off again. He's not busy chauffeuring people. Oh, that's a mean term. I shouldn't have said that. I didn't mean to say that. Nothing implied by that. He's busy not flying folks hither and hin. Hither and hin? Hither and to. Hither and to, I think is the phrase. Arctic, obviously not in the air today. Or if he's in the air and he's on the phone, well, then we got a problem. Arctic, good to see you there once again. Helen Rich. Hello, Helen. Helen has a surname that I'd like to be. Not the surname, but I'd like to be rich. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. If I were a rich man. Patrick W. is here. And who else have we got in this chat? S-Bach. I just saw S-Bach. It slid by very quickly. Courtney, thank you for the super chat. Did I do this already? Utah is now officially trying to lure a National Hockey League team. Well, that's overdue. I mean, the moment that Vegas got one, it seemed to me like Salt Lake City should be having a franchise. But instead of calling it Salt Lake City franchise, they ought to call it the Utah franchise. I think that's the move. Christine Ehlers, welcome to you. And then who else we got here? Hakan Engman, I already said that. So what's happening in Texas? Well, the border's out of control. The governor of Texas has ordered the National Guard to put razor wire up. The Supreme Court has told them to take it that the federal agents can take it down. The federal agents are violating federal law and the Constitution and their oath to the Constitution, following illegal orders from Alejandro Mayorkas, who's about to be impeached and has gone on the defense to protect himself, saying that he's being impeached over his political views. No, you're being impeached over your lawlessness and your incompetence, Alejandro Mayorkas, your intentional undermining of national security. That's why you're being impeached, but he just can't admit to that. Muriel Haynes is here. Welcome, Muriel. That's who asked what's going on in Texas. Believe from Fox News, Nancy is being impeached. Well, Nancy can't be impeached, Frederick. Nancy Pelosi cannot be impeached. There is a mechanism to remove members of the House, and that's by the House itself. They can do that. You cannot impeach a member of the House. You can impeach a cabinet member. You can impeach the president. You can impeach the vice president, but not a member of the House of Representatives. If Fox News said that, then they don't know what they're talking about. Perhaps you misunderstood what they're saying. I wouldn't put it past Fox News to not what they're talking about. JP Dreckmeyer, don't worry about it. I don't see any red dots. You should be safe. No red dots. Good point. We're all hoping for the safety of presidential candidates, even sleepy, creepy Jackass Joe. Isn't Afrikaans just dialect of Dutch? No. Common mistake. It's a good question, Courtney. It is not a dialect of Dutch. Dutch people have a difficult time understanding Afrikaans. However, Afrikaners can often understand Dutch very well. That doesn't mean that no one from the Netherlands can understand Afrikaans. The problem is the language has changed so significantly that it became its own language over time, going from Cape Dutch to what became Afrikaans. It's an act of high treason. Which one, Sean? Vegas airport private jet parking full due to Super Bowl on the 11th. Is that where the Super Bowl this year is? It in Vegas? I don't even know. I don't follow the NFL. And when the Lions choked away that victory, that ended my chances of watching the Super Bowl. What could happen to me if I out South Africa security agents? I don't know what your laws are regarding that. There may be some sanction for preventing that. I'm not sure. Nancy should be impeached for many reasons. Well, but she can't be impeached. She should be removed from Congress, perhaps, but not impeached. She cannot be impeached, and that's unfortunate. Welcome to the 71 people here. Hochrandet. Otsihil Servus, salve, grüß Gott, bienvenue, benvenuti, bonjour tous, je suis très heureux que vous êtes là avec nous. Aujourd'hui, pour notre transmission avec des actualités du 30e janvier 2024. Welcome, folks. Good to see you again. Right, let's get to some news. I got a lot of news to shovel out today, so let's get to it. First, ladies and gentlemen, more bad news for South Africa, and I'm sorry to bring this news to you, but the International Monetary Fund has slashed its growth projection for South Africa in half from a measly, miserably, terrible, only 1.8% GDP growth to just 1% for this year. Now, let's put things in perspective. A country like South Africa, with a backlog of poverty caused by the ANC for the past 30 years, in which tens of millions of people live in abject poverty in South Africa, courtesy of the ANC's failed macroeconomic policies, its racial division, its incompetence, and its rampant kleptocracy, those things have increased the number of poor South Africans arithmetically, if not exponentially. Now, in order to overcome that gap, some of which is attributable to economic policies during the National Party era, but most of it is attributable to the ANC for 30 years, South Africa needs year after year GDP growth of at least 6.5% growth. In other words, if the economy is worth 100 Rand today, it must be worth 106.5 Rand January 1st of 2025. Otherwise, the country falls behind. And this is before you even take into account the effects of inflation and hyperinflation, which exacerbates the misery that South Africans are feeling so much worse than you can imagine. So even without inflation, it needs 6.5% year on year for a sustained number of years. South Africa has only achieved anything remotely close to that for 2 years during the Mbeki administration. That's it. That's it. It cannot achieve that. 1.8% means that more South Africans will live in poverty next year than currently live in poverty today. More South Africans will suffer next year than currently suffer today. Slashing that in half dramatically worsens the situation. This is the forecast from the International Monetary Fund, the misery that awaits South Africans owing to the kleptocracy, the incompetent macroeconomic policies, the race-driven drivel from the African National Congress. And they're worried about their integrity. That's what they're worried about, not South Africans. And that's the problem. That's a political party that doesn't care about South Africans. It cares about caters. The International Monetary Fund downgraded its economic growth forecast for South Africa, warning that logistical challenges are constraining activity. Now, this is tied directly to Transnet being a failure. South Africa's most industrialized economy will likely grow a meager 1% this year, significantly lower than the IMF's forecast back in October when it projected 1.8%. It's due chiefly to all the disruptions they've seen in the energy sector, also with logistics in transportation, freight, and ports South Africa, according to the IMF chief economist Pierre-Olivier Gouranichas. Yeah, translated, load shedding and stolen rail lines. That's why South Africa's in the cock, folks. You're in the crapper. Chris Wyatt is here. Charles Van Onselen has made it in. Alter Bridge is in from Aussieland. Welcome to you. And Andreo Fick, did you give a super chat and I missed it? My apologies. Andreo Fick gave a 140 Rand super chat. Small token of appreciation. Thank you for that token of appreciation. I appreciate it a great deal. It's very kind of you. Very kind of you. Thank you so much. Well, there. So that's cool. I'm going to take a quick gander over here at something very quick on my stats page. 83 people currently here. Ooh, we're surging a little bit. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. Let me look at my analytics, which weren't working yesterday. YouTube was acting all funky yesterday. It was all funky. It wasn't giving me the detail. And they're doing it again today. What the heck is going on here? This is not giving me the data. Not give me the data. They've changed the pay. I think they've changed the way they give you data, which is less data when it comes to, yeah, it used to give you a list down here of how much you made each of the past months. Now it's gone. It's gone. That sucks. That sucks buttermilk. It really does. And it's supposed to tell you how much you made this month. Now I don't have that metric here anymore. Wow. What the heck, YouTube? What the heck? Nope, doesn't happen. That's crazy. Anyway, they've changed their page again. That's a shame. YouTube always screwing with things, making it harder for content creators to keep track of what's going on. Brian Lawrenson made it in the long drop and no ladder. Okay. Cut the beard. Are the ladies okay? I don't know. Are the ladies okay? I trimmed the beard a few weeks ago, Arctic. Probably going to trim it again. And servus. Gabriel aus der Schweiz. Guten Tag. Ich hoffe, alles ist gut bei euch. Okay. So, Rod Blofeld is in. Welcome, Rod. In from Nelsbrut. Okay, let's get back to the news, folks. Pringle Bay, the fire that one of our viewers told us about yesterday. Oh, my goodness. We heard from folks, people being evacuated. The fire is raging. Residents relocated to the Kleinmond Town Hall. Look at the smoke coming off that. The Overberg municipality evacuated residents from the small coastal town of Pringle Bay this afternoon due to safety concerns amid raging fires in parts of the Western Cape. Municipal Manager Dean O'Neill told News 24 the fire was nearing residential homes and the move to relocate residents was a precautionary measure. Our first fight is to keep the fire away from the houses, but we have relocated the residents to Kleinmond Town Hall for safety. A resident, Marnus Hutting, told News 24 they were relocated at about 2 p.m. He said the spread of the fire was not a surprise because he had seen small fires during his morning run at about 9 a.m. Initially, firefighters said it had been contained, but it later spread due to heavy winds, which prompted the evacuation. Wow. Pringle Bay, folks. Be careful there. Be careful there. Let me check something here very quickly. Where's that at? Whole town being evacuated. All right, let me show you this. Let me see if I can show you. If I can show you this video. Yeah, I can show you this video. So I have a video that was sent to me from Pringle Bay. I don't have it on the screen because it just came in a few minutes ago. I'll try to put it up on this screen if you can see it there. So here we go. This is from Pringle Bay. Wow, that is epic. Look at all that smoke. Folks, that's hectic. That's hectic, as they say in South Africa. That is epic. What the heck? Have I got a missed call here? Yeah. It is bad, Gabrielle. It is fire season in the Western Cape, summertime. We've had fires attributed to cars catching on fire, to arson, and a few natural fires. South Africa's steel industry collapse imminent. Yeah, that's probably true. What's left of it. Yeah, that is epic, folks. That is hectic. Thanks for your patience on that. I didn't have a chance to download that. That was sent to me by a source in South Africa who's out at Pringle Bay right now. Well, South Africa is seen as more corrupt than ever. Remember when Cyril Ramaphosa was elected to the leadership of the African National Congress, and he barely beat out Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who's disappeared off the screen recently, but he beat her out for that position, and he said he was coming in to end corruption. Now, this was a comical thing to say, given that he'd been the deputy president under the corrupt Jacob Zuma regime of state capture. His hands were all over that stuff. His fingerprints were everywhere, and he said he would end corruption. Well, ironically, South Africa is considered to be more corrupt now than it ever has been, even under National Party, anytime under the ANC. It is unbelievable. Is Juanita du Plessis still popular in South Africa? Oh, she's very popular, Courtney McBride. Very popular. She's part of Afrikaans' Goed. I went to Afrikaans' Goed at Loftus Versfeld early last year, and it was pretty good, but they sang too many American songs. I wanted to hear Afrikaans, not American songs. But she's very popular in South Africa. Of course, she's Namibian. Juanita du Plessis and her kids, Ruan, Josh, and Franja du Plessis, are Namibian. Well, there you go. So, South Africa's, according to Transparency International Corruption Perceptions Index, South Africa received its worst rating ever. Here you see on the map, the more corrupt the country is, the darker it is. And look at South Africa approaching that dark red down there at the bottom of Africa. They measure bribery, diversion of public funds, officials using public office for private gain, Jacob Zuma, ability of governments to contain corruption in the private sector, excessive red tape in the public sector, nepotistic appointments in civil service, South Africa, laws ensuring that public officials must disclose their finances, legal protection for people who report cases of bribery, Babita Del Quran, state capture by narrow vested interest, and access to information on public affairs, government activities. And based on that, Denmark was the top country with a score of 90. Finland and New Zealand came in 87 and 85% respectively. Yep. South Africa comes in 83rd on the list. 83rd. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's the lowest score. Terrible, 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 terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. So, people perceive South Africa as being corrupt. With good reason. ENCA, South Africa scores 12-year low in corruption report. Yep. It's the worst, not the 12-year low. It's the worst ever. Yep. He's worse than Zuma. Agreed. The cloud reminds me of Demon Ghost Cats showing its... Okay. And there's another super chat. Thank you for that, Courtney. Is Juanita du Plessis still popular in South Africa? Very popular. Is anybody else a Juanita du Plessis fan? I know I am. Christine Ayler says, doesn't like Afrikaans music. It lacks imagination. Really? You can honestly say that? I should think that Snokkop's lyrics are quite imaginary. We should be deepest, darkest Africa, especially after the Israel debacle. Oh, yeah. And John Jarvis says, what is better for you, super chat or membership gifting? That's a good question, John. I don't charge much for membership, so unless somebody's doing the top level membership, which is like $14.99 a month, the super chats are better for me. But thank you for asking, John. I do appreciate it. It's very considerate of you. The super chats are better in that standpoint. I don't make much money from the memberships. I appreciate them. They don't generate the revenue you might think they do. Jan Fillon gave a super membership there, and that was for Jacques Clote. Sorry, I missed that, Jacques. It was for you. Congratulations. The membership, unless people sign up for the top level, YouTube takes 30% of that, but I think they take more. And the other thing is if it comes from outside the U.S., They give a really crappy exchange rate, and it really takes it down low. So I mean, like when I had like 250 members, I was only making a few $100s a month, even though I had 6 people that were paying $15 a month. Ty need a beer. So Patrick just gave 5 gifts. So the gifted membership is much appreciated. I think people like to see me salute too. So thank you for that. But each of those is like, is it $2.99? So if you give 5, thank you for that. Sure. And then that works out to about $15. They take their cut, so I get about $10. I'm supposed to, but I don't trust YouTube when it comes to memberships. It's never matched the members. Defender Def, another one from Patrick. Thank you for that, Patrick. Yeah, so I don't really trust a membership. So basically, the super chats are probably the most helpful, or a Courtney McBride's membership there. Okay, Courtney get gifted a membership by Patrick. Yeah, PayPal is actually probably the best, although they take a little bit of cut, but it's gone right there, and PayPal takes a lot less. Flip Fanika. Yeah, PayPal takes a lot less, and it's for people who use the PayPal. It is helpful. There you go. So there's my PayPal. If anybody's curious about that and you're trying to help there, you just need to let me know you've done a PayPal so I can, give you credit for it, because I don't go in my PayPal very much. Raised in dual language at home, it does not have any depth. I would categorize it as flaky imitation stuff. Ouch, 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 ouch. Houses lost in Betty's Bay. We're in Kleinmond. We're preparing meals and supplies for the firemen evacuators. Well done on your part, Teresa. Thank you for taking care of the firemen and fire ladies, too. Be interesting to have a poll to see who and if people plan to vote for it. Might be wrong, but I'm a bit concerned the DA will go woke. All right, well, let's do a poll, JP Drackmeyer. Let me do a poll right now. We'll leave that that up there for a moment. Let's do a poll. What's this? I'm at 89, then I drop back. It said I was at 98. 98 people were actually here. Wow. What did they come in for? Let's turn that off. Otherwise, I'll be accused of e-begging by people who drink eucalyptus leaves down under. So, which party? All right. Okay, which party we vote for in 2024? Let's see. Now, this should be interesting, actually. So, start a poll. Okay. Well, that's not... Huh? Oh, okay. Hang on a second. That didn't quite work out right. Start a poll. There you go. Okay. Got an option here. I only get 4 options. So I'm not including the ANC and the EFF because I don't think many of my viewers support them. So here's your 4 options there. All right. Here's the poll. It's up. Uns für jou, Transvaal. There you go. Petra Myberg is here. It's okay to be late. There's no charge for that. We appreciate your presence all the same. I don't know what happened. We were at 98 and suddenly went down just like that. Did I say something that offended people, hurt somebody's feelings? Sorry if I did. Music, like many things, is a matter of taste or lack thereof. Same as art. Same as art. Same as beauty. Beauty is a matter of the eye of the beholder. It really, truly is. I mean, I've seen some people who I think are incredibly hideous looking that other people are like, wow, what a beauty. What a stunning beauty. I'm like, okay, if you say so. So it's something, and it's interesting how your thoughts on attractiveness change over time. I assume that happens for everybody. I know for me, what I thought was attractive one time is changed over time. Things I wouldn't consider even remotely attractive. I'm not just talking about people. I'm talking about things I find attractive now. Yep, Postal Service is dead due to corruption. That's true. Almost fell over there. Imagine the Pony Express and then go back for a few generations. Okay, so we've got the poll up, and I'm going to get back to the news now. Back to the news, folks. Let's get back to the news over here. So, Johannesburg Democratic Alliance has called for a swift arrest in the assassination hit at the Rand Water event that just took place in Joburg a couple days ago. The Democratic Alliance in Johannesburg has called for the swift arrest following the assassination-style shooting of Chief Whip Sitambiso Zungo, who was wounded when gunmen stormed a charity event and killed the Rand Water executive, Teboho Joala. They were shot dead in a shocking shooting incident. It took place Monday morning. Now, the event was taking place because Rand Water was there to deliver shoes to school children. A school event in broad daylight. Unbelievable. Well, the African National Congress has suspended former President Jacob Zuma, former leader of the party, the head of MK's military intelligence during the armed struggle. Yeah, he has been suspended by the African National Congress. And today, our favorite mouthpiece, Fikile Mbalula, the ANC Secretary General, came out and said that the reason for this, the reason the African National Congress has suspended Jacob Zuma is to defend the ANC's integrity. Aidez-moi. Defend the ANC's integrity. Defend the ANC's integrity. Are you serious? Wow. I've seen some funny things in my time. Once upon a time, before he went to America, Trevor Noah was actually entertaining. Dave Chappelle at times has been funny. Robin Williams was always funny. But now, Fikile Mbalula has entered the stand-up comedy arena. Yes. ANC suspends Zuma from party to protect its integrity. The National Exec Committee concluded that exceptional circumstances exist to justify and warrant immediate decision to suspend former ANC President Jacob Zuma in line with Rule 25.6. The ANC is willing, able, and ready to defend the gains of freedom and our constitutional democracy. Ready to defend the gains of freedom and our constitutional democracy. Really? Where was the ANC and its integrity? Over the arms scandal. $7 billion pissed down the drain for White Elephant Gripen fighters, Hawk lead-in fighter trainers, helicopters, Corvettes, diesel submarines. When the Army needed new trucks, new uniforms, barracks maintenance, the Air Force headquarters, the place is a disaster. It isn't even operational. Computers cooking everyone in the basement, 40 degrees Celsius. Where was this concern over the ANC's integrity, defending the gains of freedom, and protecting your constitutional democracy over the arms scandal? Where was this over Travelgate? Where was this over Oilgate? Where was this over the PPE scandals? Digital Vibes with Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Where was this concern for ANC integrity when Zandile Gumede was accused of 168 charges of corruption in Durban? eThekwini. Where was this concern about ANC integrity when your former Secretary General was embroiled in the Vreda dairy farm scandal, when he was embroiled in the asbestos tender for 251 million rand? Where was this ANC integrity concern when the Northwest Province was put in receivership because of the ineptitude and corruption of its officials? Where was your concern about integrity in Nelson Mandela Bay when 16 infants and toddlers starved to death under ANC administration because your incompetent, moronic patronage hires returned 63 million rand back to the national government that was intended to feed small children and infants? Where was this concern when July 2021 took place, when your officials sat back and allowed this to unfold and hundreds of lives lost, billions of rand in revenue loss, stores torched, lives destroyed, a crematory destroyed, a radio station attacked, a container full of ammunition ransacked, homes invaded, racist attacks against minorities? Where was this concern about the integrity of the African National Congress over Munir Palapala and his $580,000 of corrupt, illegal, illicit, undeclared currency stuffed in furniture at a game ranch purportedly brought by a Sudanese businessman who owns no ranches, owns no farms, who came to buy prize bulls? Where was this concern then? Where was your concern about integrity? Integrity? The ANC, you're a prostitute. You are a prostitute. Where was this integrity over Myanmar? Why didn't you join the case with Gambia to oppose the government of Myanmar attacking Rohingya in a genocidal campaign? Where is your concern when your Chinese masters in Beijing do genocide against the Uyghurs, a Muslim minority? Where is your concern about the integrity of the ANC? It is non-existent. You are total frauds. Fikile Mbalula was silenced a few weeks ago. Perhaps they ought to just tell him to sit down, shut up, and don't say anything else. Because every time he says something, it's so easy to refute the garbage, sewage coming out of the man's mouth. Unbelievable. Where is your integrity? You have no integrity. You squandered it on a hill long ago. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yes, RJ. Dan Corder does appear to be the public affairs spokesperson for the African National Congress. And News 24 appears to be their official news outlet. Yep. Political gathering, a few different parties that are against Cape Independence, ANC handing out T-shirts. Well, Courtney, Lesotho doesn't have autonomy. It has sovereignty. It doesn't have autonomy. The Åland Islands in Finland have autonomy. They're semi-autonomous, but they're part of Finland. Lesotho is not part of South Africa. It's a separate country. It's a sovereign nation. So the terminology is not right there. However, I can't vote on a poll about voting in South Africa. I don't know the parties, so I won't make a guess. Okay, well, there you go. That's good of you not to do it. I didn't vote either. Laudine said that Franz Cronje said the ANC will be here for the next term. Broke my spirit today. Well, that's up to opposition parties. That's up to opposition parties. They should have seen the ANC was going to find money from some corrupt location overseas and been prepared for it and no waiting for them to flood the polls. All you got to do is make the simple arguments to folks. Walk around and make the obvious arguments. Are you better off today than you were when you voted the ANC in 5 years ago? Are you? Are things better than they were 5 years ago? No. Then it's time for a change. How's that electricity working out for you? How's your water? What about those roads? Yeah, that's all because of the ANC. Yep. Easy on the non-filtered cigarettes, boss. What? Huh? It's possible. No, okay. All right, what else we got here? See, Steve Hofmeyer will speak for the Boers overseas. I have no idea what you're talking about there, Vilma. I haven't spoken to Steve since Christmas time. ANC should consider Dan. Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, Jacob Zuma did say that he was safe from catching HIV from the woman that he purportedly raped, although he denied he raped her. He said, I took a shower after sex, so he wouldn't get HIV by taking a shower. Wow. Winnie Mandela didn't murder the child. Winnie Mandela was convicted of kidnapping. She ordered the murder of the child, Stompie most likely, 14-year-old who was accused of being a spy for the government. Murdered black South Africans, murdering black South Africans. There's a long history of it. Long history of it. It's sad. Yep. ANC. Yep. Honestly, I can't say much about the Freedom Front Plus, says Debbie. Okay. Well, that's fine. So what else we got here? What else we got here? We got, come on, YouTube. Why you tell me I'm not live? All right. $6 billion you gave to Iran got their cut. We didn't give $6 billion, Mark. Are people listening to my broadcast at all? Let me clarify this again. All right. Let's get this factually correct. When the extreme right talked about $6 billion, I told them to stop squawking about it because it's not $6 billion. The $6 billion you're talking about, people in the media are lying and misrepresenting. The facts are out there in the media, but people just run with their opinion and disguise it news. The Biden regime agreed to send the theocrats in Tehran $6 billion of money from the Shah of Iran, from the old Iranian government, which has been in U.S. banks since 1979. Barack Obama did the same thing, giving them a bunch of that money back when he was president, plus pallet loads of U.S. currency, which was used to finance terrorism. Barack Obama is a criminal and should be charged for that behavior. And the world looks the other way, American voters not the least. The $6 billion in question here was transferred to a bank in the Middle East, in the Emirates, Dubai or somewhere like that. It was set to be transferred to Iran. Conservatives raised the alarm, and that money was stopped. I cannot confirm that money is returned to U.S. banks, but I believe it has. But it has not gone on to Iran. If it has, then there are going to be some heads rolling in the U.S. government because that is a crime that was stopped. Now, the bigger issue here is not the $6 billion. And this is why you need an analyst that understands holistically how to analyze things. That's what I do. The real issue here is not $6 billion. That's a drop in the bucket. The real issue here, the reason why the Houthis are so well armed, the reason why the Hamas terrorists are so well armed, the reason why Iran is launching missiles into Syria and into Iraq and into Pakistan, the reason Iran is seizing ships in the Arabian Gulf is because Joe Biden's war on energy, shutting down the Keystone XL pipeline, closing leases on federal land, denying leases on federal land, attacking oil companies, blaming them for gouging customers when the reason prices went up because he created instability in the energy markets. He created panic in the energy markets. He created fear. And then his inept, naive, idiotic, anti-American, anti-peace foreign policy, ignoring the military junta's overthrow of Aung San Suu Kyi's government in Myanmar 9 days after he took office in 2021 on February 1st, ignoring 70,000 Russian troops moved to the border in the summer of 2021 and waiting until December when his popularity sunk down to just 38%. Suddenly, Russia, 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 Russia. His reaction to fueling a proxy war in Russia, his withdrawal from Afghanistan, the cowardly, callow, weak-willowed, I know that's redundant, they all mean the same thing, ridiculous withdrawal from Afghanistan, which has saddled America now with 180,000 people whose provenance we know nothing of. We can't vouch for almost any of these people. They have no business being here except a handful of them. Joe Biden's actions led to spikes in the energy prices and his inaction. And Iran reaped a windfall profit of between $70 and $90 billion of additional profit from selling oil on the world marketplace. Not $6 billion. Who cares about the $6 billion? It's the $90 billion that Iran got because of Joe Biden's inept policies. That's the real issue here. That's a concern. That was all avoidable. Gasoline was $1.89 a gallon here in Pennsylvania on January 20th. And a year later, it was $5 a gallon. Now, Joe Biden claims he's controlled inflation. It still cost me over $3 a gallon here, nearly double what it was when Trump was president. I talked to someone yesterday whose heating oil cost them over $800 to fill their tank to heat their home. That used to cost them $275. It's insane. It's not the $6 billion. Not the $6 billion. All right, what else? How are we doing on votes here? 52 votes, 90 people here. Hey, folks, there's a poll up. Feel free to vote in that poll. And my apologies, I don't include all 546 parties running in the election in 2024. I can only get 4 spaces in a poll. I put parties that people are most likely to vote for who are watching this program. I don't think many EFF supporters are watching my program, so it would have been a wasted button. All right, so Winnie the Pooh was knocking boots with her bodyguard and half the ANC. Well, probably true, but I don't really care about that. Different legal system to the rest of the world. Okay. Nelson's perspective. I don't know what that is. It's still conspiracy or an accomplice doesn't make for heavier sentence if ordering murder. Her ordering the murder was not proven to my recollection, Debbie. It was proved that she ordered the kidnapping, and they couldn't pin the murder on her. So she went to prison under the National Party. And then she's also convicted of corruption and stealing money from taxpayers as a member of parliament for the ANC. And she also, she's a 2-time convicted felon. So when Julius Malema shows up, mother of the country, it's just vile and repulsive. She wasn't even the president's wife. He dumped her for Gracia Michelle. And so Rick Safri just subscribed. Thank you, Rick. Good to see you there. Thanks for subscribing. Debbie Mulder and cronies came up with Article 235, then buried it. Don't believe their crap talk on social media for a second. I don't know what you're talking about, Chris. Yes, Eric, you need to re-register. Make sure you get that done. Garrett says you can do it online. It only takes 2 minutes. Make sure you got lots of printed copies of that data. Okay? Save the electrons, too. All right. Totally agree. Okay, what are you guys agreeing about? Your world knowledge is phenomenal. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. I do appreciate it. My local knowledge is also pretty good. Should I ever run for office? Allison Johnson, hello to you. Nick Muller. Little Miss Know-It-All is back. Good to see you again. Wouldn't that be crazy if Little Miss Know-It-All was actually a dude? Mark says the number is irrelevant. The ANC still gained from it. Mark, the $6 billion never got there. They didn't get anything from it. The 70, 90 billion they got. Yep. They gained from. All right. What else we got here? Not a fan of the DA yet. I don't believe in dividing votes to puppet agencies to get rid of the cancer. It's still I'm missing some things here. My twinning cabin driver is a veteran from the Navy. He's driving her from Marco Island, Tampa. Sent you your tube link. 3-hour drive so I can watch Bringing the World Closer. Okay, I didn't really understand what you were saying there, Debbie. Your twin, I don't know what that means, in cab. You have a twin. I didn't know you had a twin. He's a veteran from the Navy. He's driving her from Marco Island to Tampa. Sent your YouTube link. It's a 3-hour drive. Well, 3 hours. We ought to keep them pretty entertained for 3 hours. Welcome to whoever that is if you're currently listening on the trip to Tampa. Well, Tampa, it's a nice place. My cousin lives down there. He actually ran for president in 2000. Single-handedly walked around. He got several thousand votes. But, yeah. So, yeah, he owns a fish wholesale business down there. I haven't talked to him in 20 years, maybe longer. Ever heard Joel Skousen's opinion of the wars happening today? He's an American author, mostly about, I can't read that, about survival. No, I'm not familiar with him. Should South Africa be banned from SWIFT payments? Oh, Jan, they're already gray listed. They've already put themselves in a real trouble. If that happened in South Africa, their economy would be collapsing. That's not going to happen. Neither know you, so introducing them. Well, thank you for that, Debbie. Introduced me to the channel. I appreciate that. Hopefully they enjoyed the content and they can tell others about it. Told you I was part of a big bottom girl group. Fat bottom girls, you make the rockin' world go round. Boy, Queen, man. Their lyrics. Fat bottom girls. Anyway. Queen. If this was Ronaldo, he'd be all excited now because of Queen. The July riot instigators who are being charged in the case dropped their ANC regalia and showed up in court wearing Mkhonto weSizwe party gear. Can it be any clearer that these people have links to Jacob Zuma? Many of the alleged instigators of July 2020 public violence in KZN showed up for their first high court appearance wearing the regalia and colors of former President Jacob Zuma's new Mkhonto weSizwe party. At their last appearance in November, the ANC regalia dominated. But on Monday, in the Durban High Court, the 65 men and women accused of terrorism, sedition, public violence, and conspiracy to commit murder made it clear where their political loyalties now lie, to Jacob Zuma. Their loyalties lie with Jacob Zuma. That comes as no surprise to anybody watching events in South Africa. Now, listen, folks, this is the behavior. Now, look, let me be very clear. I'm not picking on SAPS, the South African Police Service. I'm not picking on law enforcement. Nothing but major respect for law enforcement, having been a federal law enforcement official. I'm not one of those people that attacks the police. However, every cohort, every group, in every segment of society, unfortunately, has bad apples or people who have bad impulse control. And here's an example. The problem in South Africa is that this impulse control, these bad habits, it's not one or two, it's a lot. And it really brings shame to the entire force. A cop arrested on attempted murder for allegedly stabbing a teenager she accused of stealing her son's cell phone. Let that sink in for a moment, folks. A police officer stabs a teenager whom she accused of stealing her son's phone. If he stole the son's phone, she's a cop. Why didn't she simply place him in bracelets and take him to the police station and process him for charging? She stabs him. 29-year-old Northern Cape constable has found herself on the wrong side of the law over allegations she assaulted a teenager she accused of stealing her son's cell phone. Vuyisika Matsa was arrested by the Independent Police Investigative Directive and appeared in the Calvina Magistrates Court. She faces attempted murder and assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. It's alleged that when she was off duty, she went to the 16-year-old's home looking for him, accusing him of stealing her son's cell phone. The victim's mother was at home at the time. However, during this time, the victim arrived home. She asked about the phone. He said he knew nothing about it. She allegedly started screaming at him, and out of panic, he said the phone was under the pillow. When the victim's stepfather went to look for the phone, he could not find it. It's further alleged that then she went to the kitchen and came back with a knife. She allegedly stabbed the teenager on the left upper arm and hit him with an iron pipe. My goodness. My goodness. Unbelievable. This is the conduct of a police officer. This is a person who should be in jail not wearing a badge. That is just despicable. And it's all happening so frequently. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so long, sayonara, take care, goodbye. The night the lights went out in South Africa. South Africa has lost 9,000 millionaires. 9,000 people with deep pockets who can invest and contribute to South Africa's economy are no longer in South Africa. This from a BRICS, yes, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, survey of high net worth individuals. The latest BRICS Wealth Report for 2023 shows South Africa has lost thousands of millionaires over the last decade, ranking near the bottom of the top BRICS countries. According to the report, there are 1.6 million individuals with investable assets of over $1 million in the group, world-leading emerging economies, including 4,716 centimillionaires, or people with more than $100 million, and 549 billionaires. Of course, China leads the charge here with 862,400 millionaires. Excuse me. Communist China. Everybody's equal. Socialism, we're all the same. Equality of outcomes. But 862,400 Chinese nationals are millionaires. Yeah. How's that communism working for the other billion plus? They have 2,352 100 millionaires and 305 billionaires in China. Wow. Wow. That's insane. South Africa, for its part, was home to 37,400 millionaires, including 102 100 millionaires and 5 billionaires at the end of 2023. That's down by 20% from 2013, which means that South Africa has lost 9,350 millionaires in 10 years. So on average, 1,000 billionaires are leaving South Africa because of its broken country status every single year. Frightening stuff, absolutely frightening stuff, folks, if you're from South Africa. Not good news. Well, former Chief Justice or Senior Justice, Constitutional Court Judge Edwin Cameron, of course, famously wrote a book about HIV. Edwin Cameron breaks his silence about Stellenbosch University scandal, and he's changed his tune. Let me read to you what he says, and then let me read to you what he said a few years ago. There can be no place at Stellenbosch University for any practice or behavior that belittles, degrades, exerts undue power over anyone, he said in a statement released today. He's a former old boy of the residence in place known as Wilgenhof. Edwin Cameron, retired Constitutional Court Justice and Chancellor of Stellenbosch University, has broken his silence about the scandal that has erupted at the Wilgenhof residence. Now, you see what he says as the Chancellor. We cannot tolerate this. It's not acceptable. But let me see what he said a few years ago. Now, wait. He also said, these vestiges of the past have to be expunged. The rector and vice chancellor has established an inquiry into the meaning and significance. I look forward to trying to assist the inquiry in all ways within my power. Well, you would expect that from the chancellor of the university. However, he was appointed chancellor in 2020. In the same year, he was recorded telling a Wilgenhof Day gathering that abuses returned at the residence and that he was asked for his views on the constitutionality of initiation practices at Wilgenhof. This is a verbatim quote from none other than Edwin Cameron, the former member of the Constitutional Court. I said, as long as it's consensual, properly informed in material respects, not in all details, that it can proceed. And the same seems to me to be true of the Naglichte, the nightlights, that if there is informed consent, then it can proceed. Wow! Edwin Cameron sure has changed his tune. 4 years ago, he said it was perfectly okay to haze students at Stellenbosch. Presumably because he was probably hazed when he was there. But now, when pressure is exerted about the abuse of students at Stellenbosch, suddenly he's got a different view on the issue. Really? Well, Edwin Cameron, you've just proven what a fraud you are. What a shame. I've met Edwin Cameron. Came to the United States on a Kaiser Foundation sponsored event 20 years ago. And I met him after his book came out at an event about PEPFAR. And he criticized PEPFAR. And his head was up his ass then. And it's still up his ass. Stupid comments. Degrading. Well, that's what people are saying about comments that John Steenhuisen made. The DA leader commits an own goal here with a statement that's, oh, he should stand by it, but it's not the sort of thing you want to say in politics. Steenhuisen slammed for a drunken analogy dragging Pep stores in Lesotho rant. DA leader John Steenhuisen received backlash for using a drunkard analogy while criticizing the appointment of 4,000 crime wardens, an initiative introduced by Gauteng Premier Panyazi Lesufi. Speaking at a party campaign event in Soshanguve, that's the slum north of Pretoria, at the weekend, Steenhuisen made critical remarks about the wardens and ruffled feathers. What did Panyazi Lesufi do, he said. He took your tax money to buy ill-fitting Pep store uniforms for untrained caterers and pretended they were crime wardens. What kind of person pulls out a drunkard out of a shebeen, gives him a uniform and a weapon, and then unleashes them into the community? Ouch! Ouch, 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 ouch. There's the quote right there. Wow. 3 million views as of today. Ouch! There's an own goal by John Steenhuisen. Now, here's a response from Thabo Makwakwa. That's an interesting surname, Makwakwa. Thabo said the following. My cousin is one of the recruits, and I assure you he's no drunkard. He's also no caterer and doesn't even drink alcohol. He went through the training program and passed the training test. The pep store uniforms he wears has changed his and our family's lives for the better. Let's get to the actual tweet here. Unlike you, we are not privileged and we have no generational wealth, but that doesn't warrant the racist attacks you're directing to black people. Stop disrespecting us. Well, Tabo, it's not racist. Stop your thin-skinned nonsense. The comments were unwarranted and they're mean-spirited, but they're not racist. Stop your juvenile, childish resorting to racism all the time because you can't win an argument. You won your argument before you started the You committed the racist offense here, Tabo Makwakwa. You committed the racist offense here, not John Steenhuisen. John Steenhuisen is correct. He's correct. These crime wardens are illegitimate and shouldn't be there. And that's what he should have said. The Shabin comment was stupid and it was a dumb political move. But it happens. It happens. It's not racist and it's childish to use race. You had a perfectly good response here. Your cousin is a recruit. Your cousin isn't a drunkard. Your cousin doesn't drink. Your cousin is not affiliated with the ANC. There you go. Now, the racism and bigotry also coming in here is implying that John Steenhuisen came from generational wealth. As far as I know, he doesn't come from generational wealth. Stop that. That's another racist trope, generational wealth. White people are rich because of generational wealth. That's the biggest crock of horse manure I've ever heard of. I'm not rich. Certainly not from generational wealth. My mother died 3 years ago. What did I get? Nothing. My father died 6 years ago. What did I get? Nothing. Lived on public assistance as a child. Used an outhouse to go to the bathroom, an outdoor privy. Didn't have electricity. Fetch water from a cistern to bathe and cook with. I don't want to hear about generational wealth. That's bigotry and racism directed against people that you don't like. Royal just subscribed. Thank you for subscribing, Royal. And Arctic asked a very good question. If this gentleman's cousin was so good, why didn't that person join SAPS or the SANDF? Very good point. Very good point. 100%. But John Steenhuisen commits an own goal that was wholly unnecessary. Not smart. Not smart, folks. Okay, how are we doing on the poll? How are we doing? The Freedom Front Plus was out ahead, but they've fallen behind. Ooh, look at that. It's neck and neck. It's neck and neck. The Freedom Front Plus, 47. The DA, 45 in this poll. Whoa, few Action SA voters. Look at that. John Jarvis says the DA lost the plot a long time ago. Matthews here. What else? Lasufi is just the prime example of ANC catered deployment. Exactly. Arctic sees nothing wrong with the statement. Well, Arctic, I see your point, but in the world of politics, not a smart move. The Shabin comment should have been left out. Do you have any form of initiation in your military? Well, Mark, going into basic training is a form of initiation. It's state sponsored. It breaks down the individual and makes you part of a team. But it's not hazing. Hazing is very different. There are some organizations in the military that have little rituals, but hazing is frowned upon and it's prosecutable in the military. We have had problems with that in special forces in the past, elite units that do that sort of thing. And when it gets exposed, those people are prosecuted or removed from the military. Yeah. Organizations that like to consider themselves elite or different or restricted always like to come up with some stupid stuff, whether it's in civil society, it's in politics, it's in it doesn't matter. People always want to do this idiocy. They all think that they're freaking, the Templars or something like that. Ooh, it's idiotic. Sororities and fraternities are famous for this. They do this pledge week and they haze people, and it's illegal and it needs to stop. She's a beaut. What's a beaut? The South Africa collapse was on the current trajectory. Yes, that's true. It's already collapsed. It's already a carcass right now. The E-Doctor. Hey, E-Doctor. Tuber thinking racism is childish. I'm listening. And staying. Well, okay, E-Doctor. No, what I said, the person said is childish. Not racism. Hating someone because their skin color is not childish. It's incoherent. It's idiotic. It has no basis in reality. Race isn't real. It's a made-up construct by sociologists. If we were different races, we couldn't interbreed. We couldn't mix. We couldn't produce offspring. We probably would not be mutually intelligible, although sometimes I think we're not with the political left. Yeah, welcome to the program there, E-Doctor. Thanks for being here. Thanks you for subscribing, or you wouldn't have been able to chat, so I appreciate that subscription. and welcome. Yeah, no, I've talked about this many, many, many times about race. Again, let me just give one example here of how people use racism. And that gentleman there actually used racism. They threw those racial tropes in there, those dog whistles, as the left always likes to say. Those were dog whistles to tarnish John Steenhuisen. John Steenhuisen's statement was not politically smart. He could have stopped without the Shebeen comment and, drunkards and Shebeens, and he would have been fine. He's in politics. That sort of stuff comes back to bite you in the backside. So that's for the leader of a political party to say that. It's one thing for a politician to say it, a local counselor, somebody in the provincial legislature, but the leader of a party, that's going to hurt the party potentially. But to be honest with you, in South Africa, he'll probably gain just as many votes for the DA as he'll lose as a consequence of that statement. So it's his choice, it's his prerogative. But let me give you the perfect example here of why racism is so idiotic and how people use race and misuse it. I've said this many, many times on this program, but I see some new folks here, including E-Doctor. So let me say this right now. Here's a perfect example. In America, the political left is running around screaming that the use of photo ID in elections is racist. How is it racist? Does the photo ID force the voter to identify their race and then they don't get the vote? Or do you get no. The purpose of photo ID is to verify the voter is legitimately the voter who's on the rolls, the person who enrolled to vote, who legitimately has the ability, a non-felon American citizen over the age of 18 or older, residing in the district and the location where they're voting at. That's the purpose of photo ID. In Pennsylvania, I'm a judge of elections here. In Pennsylvania, my poll workers cannot ask for your ID unless it's your first time voting in that precinct. You must present photo ID. Well, you don't have to present photo ID. In Pennsylvania, you can present a utility bill, which doesn't have your photo on at all. It's just someone can take it out of your mailbox. So it's very generous. But the argument made here by these hate wankers on the political left is, well, photo ID is racist. It discriminates against people of color. Okay, stop. We're all people of color. I'm pink. White, whatever white is, that's a color. I don't know what crayons they got in the box, but we're all people of color. This is racist to use this term people of color. It's ridiculous. It's dividing people. I'm pink. Some of you claim to be white. Others are olive. Others are black. Others are brown. We're all people of color. Stop the nonsense. It's idiotic. It's ludicrous. So, continuing. Strange thing about photo ID. When I go to the package store to buy a bottle of wine or get some booze or whatever, which I don't really do, but when I go there, I've been there a few times to buy it for an occasion, a visitor came over, something like that. I see black folks in line. And what do they present? They go up to the counter, photo ID, because you have to be of age to prove that they're eligible to buy booze. When you go to the store where they sell smokes, when people zoll, they roll a zoll. Anyway, that's a South African joke for those who don't know it. When people go to buy smokes, they must present photo ID. When I go to the bank to cash a check, I see folks in front of me, black folks, presenting photo ID to put money in the bank or take money out of the bank. When you go to a pharmacy to get your prescription meds, a chemist in UK and South African vernacular, when you go to the chemist to get your controlled substances to keep you alive, you must have photo ID, also to prove for your insurance carrier when you get there if you have insurance. Black folks who stand in line getting their meds, the high blood pressure medication, their diabetes medication, just like everybody else. But it's racist to require photo ID to vote. How? By making that statement, what you're saying is that black people are lazy, stupid, incompetent, or lack agency to get a photo ID. That's ludicrous. That's racist in and of itself. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And they should be ashamed of themselves. They should be no different than the idiots who told me years ago that we need illegal immigrants because Americans are too lazy to pick raspberries. If you paid Americans $16 an hour to pick raspberries, they'd pick raspberries. But when you're paying $4 an hour, only people who lack legitimate documentation and are in the country illegally will work for that salary. So your soft bigotry, thinking it's okay to exploit people who are illegal, and you should let them stay because they're illegal because they're needed to pick the artichokes and pick the raspberries and the almonds out in California. That's bigotry. These people are just unbelievable. Anyway, I think I explained that. Posing as a doctor on YouTube. Oh, yeah, there you go. That's the guy from South Africa. Yeah. But that was on TikTok he did that. He didn't do it on YouTube. What else we got here? Race, this, that. Focus on culture. Exactly. Cultures are different. That's right. All right. I'm going to end the poll because it's not going anywhere. Let's see who wins it. I'm going to end it at 65 votes, and it's a dead heat. The Freedom Front Plus and the DA at 44% each. There you go. Action SA got 7%. That surprised me. I didn't expect Action SA to do well. I thought DCP would do I thought ACDC, Kenneth Bushway's ACDC party, the ACDP, the African Christian Democratic Party, I thought they would get around 3 or 4%. So that's pretty much what I expected. All right. And I know that the voter is probably Erica, be my guess, and maybe one other person. The Postal Service pays new hires $22 an hour to deliver mail, but we still have a hard time finding enough people to apply for us. Well, yeah, because people have been conditioned not to work by the corrupt regime in Washington under the bureaucracy under Trump and the corrupt regime under the corrupt Joe Biden. People are living at home and refuse to work when they're perfectly capable of working. Patrick said, never expected Freedom Front Plus to do that well. Well, yeah, that's a bit of a surprise. I thought maybe the DA would edge out the Freedom Front Plus. Appears no Christians on your show. That's not true, Mark. People here are Christians. You don't have to be a Christian to vote for the ACDP. You just have to agree with the party. So you can be a Christian and vote for other parties. I mean, the Republican Party is not a Christian party. Lots of Christians vote for it. Anyway, right, back to the news. We had a lot of news here we're trying to get through. All right, so whoop, that's the wrong screen there. How did I get over here? Roger. All right, one-man show. You get busy. Just what South Africa needs, folks. Another political party. That's right. Another political party for South Africa. Yeah. Yep. Another bum-hurt former member of the African National Congress, Marius Fransman, has a new political home, and he's going to contest. Former Western Cape ANC leader Marius Fransman is making a comeback. In 2016, he was under pressure to quit politics after he was accused of a sexual assault that allegedly took place during a road trip to the ANC's anniversary celebration in the Northwest. They found him guilty of 2 counts of misconduct after a protracted disciplinary process, but he wasn't convicted in a criminal proceeding. And his membership in the ANC was suspended for 5 years. That would take him to 2021. But today, Fransman announced that the People's Movement for Change, the PMC, would be contesting the general elections. At a media briefing held in Cape Town, he said people deserve better leaders than servant leaders. Our democracy's hard won against the backdrop of apartheid is facing significant challenges that demand our collective attention and action. I don't know anything about Mr. Fransman. What I can tell you is that you were convicted by your own party of misconduct and you want to run for office? Yeah, that's not a good sign. South Africa's Action Society's Ian Cameron reports that the South African Police Service in the Western Cape has had no radio communication since last Thursday. The system is turned off, and so is the communication with the 10111 control room. Cops in the Cape Flats try to call for backup when shot at via WhatsApp, if they've got a signal and data. SAP's management is sending good cops to their graves. This also means the public will not get a response that they are meant to if they're calling 911 or 10111. Wow. So there you go. No radio for the police in the Western Cape. Good Lord. That is a failed society. That is a collapsed society, folks. Well, Scotland goes into the Six Nations this weekend, and they're missing one of their South African stars. WP Nel will be out. South African-born WP Nel is withdrawn from the team to face Wales in Cardiff on Saturday. He's struggling with a neck strain. So they've added Javan Sebastian from Argentina and Ross Thompson. So WP Nel is out of the game. That's not good for Scotland. Turning our attention to Darfur. International Criminal Court prosecutor believes that warring parties have committed war crimes in Darfur. Shocker, not. More than 7.5 million people have fled their homes since the war erupted in April of 2023. The United States formally determined that warring parties in Sudan have committed war crimes. Now the ICC chief prosecutor Karim Khan says the crimes are being committed in Darfur by both the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces affiliated with both groups. Wow, with the other group, excuse me. Mali and Burkina Faso have submitted their formal withdrawal from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. They announced they, along with Niger, would be leaving, but now the two of them have submitted their formal notice. Wow, there you go. The military regimes in all 3 corrupt countries have announced plans to withdraw from the bloc, accusing it of posing a threat to their sovereignty. No, you pose a threat to the citizens of your nations, these corrupt military. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's one. If Brett Sessoms is here, he's going to love this. Hey, Deborah Olivier, welcome to you. If Brett Sessoms is here, he's going to love this because he always wants to hear more news on Liberia. President Boakai, former vice president under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and then out of politics, out of main office for a while, who's ascended to the presidency, he's a septuagenarian, nearly an octogenarian, says that the coffers are empty. His government went and looked at the bank accounts, and all the money is gone. Ooh, this doesn't reflect well on former soccer star George Weah, who stepped down. Liberia's new president said its international reserves were half what was claimed. To curb corruption, he plans to use sweeping audits. The 79-year-old said the report of $40 million as the government of Liberia's consolidated account balance as of 19 January is not supported by fact. The balance reported by the Central Bank of Liberia at the same date was actually $20,500,000, not $40 million. Wow. He also bemoaned the fact that the country's public debt rose 601.8% during the time that George Weah was in office. 6 years, the public debt rose by 600%. He said there's a default in the payment of $650,000 to the European Investment Bank and is preventing a disbursement of $13 million for a road project. My goodness. He says Liberia is under sanction for lack of payment of dues to the African Union and the African Development Bank and doesn't have money in the bank. That's bad news for Liberia. Where'd all the money go? Well, I was asked by Radine, I think it was, our Italian viewer, asking me about what's going on with Italy and this Commission for Africa. Well, it's an effort by Italy to make itself relevant to Africa, the former colonial power in Africa, which invaded and occupied Libya, which was Kynetia or something like that. I can't, Kynetia, how you pronounce that. Libya, and also, of course, Ethiopia, Eritrea. It tried to, and Somalia, part of Somalia as well. The former colonial empire of the modern Italian state. Of course, North Africa was for long under the control of Rome, but that's, a long time ago. But the modern African state was also colonial power in Africa. But they were different than the German and French and British colonial authorities in Africa, in their view. So they're looking to take advantage of Germany's distraction and France's distraction and the UK's suffering right now, not focusing on Africa, and so they're trying to step in. Well, they're talking about paradigm changes, and it's just ridiculous. I talked about this yesterday. So, Moussa Faki welcomes Giorgia Meloni's plan to strengthen relations, but says, we're not beggars. That's comical. The chair of the African Union Commission said, we're not beggars, as the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, outlined a plan aimed at helping African countries prosper in return for curbing illegal immigration. Speaking at the much-anticipated Italy-Africa summit in Rome, Moussa Faki welcomed Italy's overtures to a mutually beneficial strengthening of relations with the African continent, but said we cannot be satisfied with mere promises that can't be kept. He said a paradigm shift was required to usher in a new model of partnership towards a more just and coherent world. He said, Africa does not want to reach out. We are not beggars. Moussa Faki, you are completely full of it. Ladies and gentlemen, before a single African country began reporting cases of COVID in 2020, before a single African country was affected by trade in 2020, finance ministers from dozens of African countries, I think it was 44 if I remember correctly, didn't ask for consideration, demanded that their debt, their foreign debt, be forgiven. They demanded. We're not beggars, but cancel our debt. We're not beggars. Of course you're beggars, African Union. Patrick has donated 21 Rand. Thank you for that. Of course they're beggars. Absolutely they're beggars. There's no question about it. I worked at the African Union. Do you know that, I don't know the current figure, but when I worked there, 85% of its budget came from the European Union and the United States? 85% of the operating budget. And virtually all the peacekeeping money came from international donors. Africans have no skin in the game. The AU is a joke. It doesn't have to be a joke, but Africans don't pay for it. Europeans, Americans, Japanese pay for the African Union. It's our vanity project, not yours. And the Chinese built your spy building, because that's what they do with it. They spy on Africans. You're not beggars? Really? Which African money financed the AU headquarters? What African money finances peacekeeping operations that are run by African countries in Africa? What African money pays for all the social... There's none. We're not beggars. Stop lying. Stop lying. Of course you're beggars. Don't be ashamed of it. Tell the people that give you the money that you're doing something worthwhile with it. Show them the effects of it. That's what you should be doing. Arctic says Ben Carlson as VP. Yeah, that's fine with me. I already talked about that. Yep. Yeah, that's a good choice. So For those who value critical thinking, a deeper level of understanding organized religion, I suggest reading the Grand Inquisitor Dostoevsky. Thank you for that. There's a super chat from Arctic. 100 Rand, thank you for that. What's going on here between Christine and the E-Doctor? Whatever it is, chill. All right? So, moving along in the news here, folks. Israelis. Now, look, okay, let's put this in perspective, okay? Israeli Defense Force troops, special forces, went into a hospital where terrorists were operating and took them out. No civilians injured. The building wasn't bombed. The building wasn't destroyed. This is what I called for from the outset. This is the sort of operation I said Israel should be engaged in. Not this massive shelling to get to Hamas, but to target them in this fashion. That's what I'm saying. They should do minimal damage. And that's what they do. And they're being criticized for it. They're being criticized for doing exactly what the world is asking them to do. Reduce the carnage. That's exactly what they do. And they get criticized for it. So, Israel, undercover troops dressed as medical staff kill 3 militants in the West Bank hospital, officials say. Israeli special forces dressed as civilians and medical staff infiltrated the Ibn Sina hospital in the West Bank city of Jenin. What? It's not occupied West Bank. It is Judea. Killed 3 Palestinians, according to Israel and Palestinian officials. CCTV shared on social media appeared to show around a dozen commandos dressed as nurses, women in hijabs, and one pushing a wheelchair, another carrying a baby car seat as they stormed a hospital corridor carrying assault weapons. Hamas said the men were Jenin Brigades fighters, an umbrella group of armed Palestinian factions in the West Bank city. The Israeli Defense Forces said they were terrorists linked to Hamas and Islamic Jihad. So, yep. All right. Well, the fact that it's in Judea has raised a different issue here. It's not in Gaza, but that's the sort of thing that should be done rather than, but maybe they should have arrested them rather than executing them. That's a whole other story. But so you saw that report. CNN at least had the decency to say the truth that these people were militants. They're actually terrorists. That's close enough, though. They're combatants. But look at this fake Washington Post. This is fake stream media right here, folks. Israeli forces raid West Bank hospital, killing 3. 3 what? Down below, they say Palestinian militants, but that's not what the headline says. That's dishonest. That's dishonest. Well, Israel's far right is planning on getting rid of Palestinians in Gaza, according to multiple reports from a conference that took place. Although Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel has no plans to reoccupy Gaza, but must contend with ministers to support the push that might topple his government. Remember all the racists talking about Israel being white? Where are the white folks out there? It's a bunch of Semitic folks there, folks. Etienne Khan has a vision for the future of Gaza City. He wants to turn it into a high-tech green city that will allow Jewish residents and foreign tourists alike. It would be renamed New Gaza, and Palestinians wouldn't be welcome, according to him. The only way to have peace is if the Arabs are not there, said the 49-year-old rabbi during an event described as settlements bring security. Israel still has no concrete plan for what will happen in Gaza at the end of the war. But its influential far right has a clear goal in mind, Jewish resettlement of Gaza. And you notice it's resettlement because they were there before. They were kicked out. Pakistan has sentenced its former prime minister to 10 years in prison just in front of the election. Of course, they made him a criminal so he couldn't run. Now they want to hide him away. The special court found Khan guilty of making public the contents of a secret cable sent by Pakistan's ambassador in Washington to the government in Islamabad. His Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party said the former foreign minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi was also sentenced 10 years in the same case. He previously been sentenced to 3 years in jail in a corruption case back in August, which ruled him out of the public spotlight ahead of the February 8th general elections. Yeah. So, there you go. Hong Kong is extending its crackdown. The foolish decision by the United Kingdom to turn Hong Kong over to Chinese communists in 1999 or 1997, whatever that was, is proving to be disastrous for Hong Kong residents. The proposed new law would broaden definitions of security, state secrets, and sedition, and bring it more in line with the communists in mainland China. Hong Kong outlined new communist national security law that would broaden laws covering sedition and expand the range of material considered state secrets. Pretty much anything that they want to consider state secret will be a state secret, and you will go to prison, and you will like it. Yeah, Hong Kong is gone. What a shame. Well, all those cryptocurrency fans, ooh, crypto. Well, another. We had the Sam Bankman-Fried scandal, Ponzi scheme. Now we have another one. This one in Australia, down under. Australian Sam Lee charged with conspiracy to commit fraud in the United States in a $1.9 billion Ponzi scheme. Hyperverse crypto schemes subject to a Guardian Australia investigation alleged to have defrauded investors of almost 3 billion Australian, which is 2 billion US. The Australian blockchain entrepreneur Sam Lee has been charged with conspiracy to commit fraud in the U.S. for his alleged role in the operating the hyperverse crypto investment schemes described in court documents as a pyramid and Ponzi scheme. U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland, Eric Barron, said the Department of Justice would hold perpetrators accountable for these and other fraud schemes, with Lee facing up to 5 years in jail if convicted. The level of alleged fraud here is staggering. Well, of course it's staggering. It's crypto. What do you expect? It's not governed by anything, no oversight. Well, Super Rugby takes another hit as the Melbourne Rebels declare bankruptcy. Cash-strapped Super Rugby franchise enters administration, which means bankruptcy. Rugby Australia is working with the debt-ridden Melbourne Rebels to ensure they field a team in this year's Super Rugby Pacific competition, but has offered no guarantees beyond that. They formally entered voluntary administration with the season set to get underway in less than a month. The national governing body said it remains committed to rugby in Victoria, but offered no clues about how that may look. So, the Melbourne Rebels are gone. But will they be back? Russia, despite all the lies from the mainstream and fake stream legacy media saying that Russia cannot maintain its arsenal, that it's crippled, that it doesn't have anything, doesn't have troops, doesn't have money, it's on the verge of collapse. Now the mainstream legacy media tell us the truth. Russia can actually replace its tank losses. Russia is replacing its destroyed tanks at a rate of 100 per month, according to United Kingdom's intelligence report. Yep, they've lost 365 main battle tanks since early October, but they've replaced virtually all of them. They can probably generate at least 100 main battle tanks a month and therefore retain the capacity to replace battlefield losses and continue offensive activity for a foreseeable future. Since it's launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, it's lost about 2,600 main battle tanks and 4,900 other armored vehicles. Yeah, well, 2,600 tanks, that sounds like Kursk. It sounds like the Nazis are stopping them. Hey, folks, now here's a waste of time and money. You ready for this? PV Magazine, Photovoltaic Magazine, runs an article here by Lior Kahana talking about a study in Pakistan that determined that dust degrades the efficacy of solar panels. Yeah, I'm not making this up, folks. They actually did a study to see if dust makes them less effective. I can tell you that without even owning solar panels. Good Lord. New research from Pakistan shows that dust could reduce PV panel performance through the shielding effect and the dust temperature phenomenon. The scientists tested 2 PV systems in different parts of the country. There's a clean one on the left, there's a dirty one on the right. And guess what? The one on the right didn't produce as much electricity. Who would have guessed? Who would... Who could have guessed that that ever would have happened? Serious? Are these people for real? Are these people for real? The International Monetary Fund has upgraded its outlook for global growth, citing U.S. resilience. Our economy is hanging in there, and policy support back in Chi-Coms. International Monetary Fund upgraded its global growth forecast for this year by 0.2 percentage points to 3.1. Resilience in U.S. and Chinese fiscal stimulus and a strong performance by large emerging market economies all contribute to a slightly brighter picture. Of course, they're ignoring the massive amount of debt that's about to cause a financial meltdown for the U.S. The IMF believes there's now a reduced likelihood of a so-called hard landing, an economic contraction followed by a period of strong growth despite new risk from commodity price spikes and supply chain issues. Yep. They're forecasting growth of 2.1 in the United States, which is anemic, 0.9 in the Eurozone and Japan, and 0.6 in the UK. Well, that's not very impressive. Not very impressive at all. That's terrible. That's not even keeping up with inflation. Well, mixed up something situation led to the death of 3 black soldiers in Jordan. Mixed up enemy-friendly drones and attack that killed 3 U.S. troops. Pentagon identified the dead as members of the Army Reserve Unit from Georgia and said the number of Americans wounded has risen to more than 40. We may have more fatalities from this. U.S. Army Reserve Sergeant William Jerome Rivers, Specialist Breonna Alexandria Moffett, and Specialist Kennedy Landon Sanders were killed in this drone attack. American air defenses failed to intercept an attack drone that killed 3 U.S. troops and wounded dozens in Jordan amid confusion about the identity of approaching aircraft. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We put troops in harm's way and they don't even have the resources to protect themselves. Kind of feels like when I went to combat and rode around in an aluminum cockpit at times. Unbelievable. There are rules for drones, and they weren't friendly. They were hostile, but they were unable to detect it, or they failed to detect it. So, Biden sparks outrage, according to the New York Post. Now, I'm going to treat this story a little differently than you might think as a conservative and a person that really has no respect for Joe and his administration. I think this is a bit overblown by the media, and it's also a bit thrown out of proportion by people on the far right. Biden sparks outrage with reports that he may not attend ceremony honoring the troops killed in Jordan. Now, before I go any further, what you're going to hear is people on the far right saying, don't Black Lives Matter. And cynically, they can say that because all 3 troops that died are black, and Joe Biden is not going to go to the ceremony at Dover Base. President Biden has sparked outrage after it emerged that he may not attend a ceremony honoring 3 U.S. Army reservists killed in Jordan, as reports suggest he may be planning retaliatory strikes on Iran. The bodies of Sergeant Rivers, 46, Specialist Moffitt, 23, and Specialist Sanders, 24, all from Georgia, are expected to be flown back to Dover in a dignified transfer after they were killed by Iranian-backed militants in a Saturday night attack on a small outpost. But when asked on Monday whether the president would attend the ceremony, John Kirby, the retired one-star admiral, said he doesn't have anything on the president's schedule. Many online found the response disgraceful. Joe Biden just got 3 black members of the military killed, free speech advocate Philip Anderson posted on Twitter. Their Black Lives Matter so much to Joe Biden that he won't even bother to show up to receive their bodies, from what I'm hearing. Another user suggests the president doesn't have anything on his schedule, noting that the people in Ohio are still waiting for a visit after train derailments last year. John Sweet, a former military intelligence officer, also said the response was not a good look for the president. Who the hell is John Sweet? I'm a military intelligence officer. No, it's not a good look for the president. It was a stupid comment for Kirby to say. What he should have said is that we're still working on the president's schedule and we'll give you an update about his attendance later on. That would have been a smart thing to say. So what I'm going to say about this is that these scumbag protesters showed up when our comrades were brought back from Iraq and Afghanistan for dignified transfers and protested against their lives. Now, I guarantee you that none of them will show up when dead soldiers, as a consequence of Joe Biden's failed foreign policy, arrive at Dover. They won't be able to insult those veterans, those who died in combat. They won't be able to insult, but these scumbag leftists, that's what I'm going to talk about in this story. Joe Biden, he's not there. I mean, if I were in combat and I came back, I'll tell you right now, if I have to write instruction before it happened, if I pass, I don't want an idiot like Joe Biden at my dignified transfer. He doesn't need to be there. President doesn't need to be there for dignified transfers. It's a political photo op. It's unnecessary, and I wouldn't want Biden there. So that's my statement on that story. Well, Biden is offering fresh assurances that he's going to shut down the border after denying there was even a problem in facilitating the criminal alien invasion of America for the past 3 years. Wow, if he's given the right deal. Of course, he doesn't want the right deal. He wants to support his proxy war in Ukraine. What is Joe Biden hiding in Ukraine, ladies and gentlemen? What is he hiding? What is he so afraid is going to come out if he doesn't give them the blood money that they keep demanding? If Volodymyr Zelensky doesn't get his graft from Joe Biden, what is Joe afraid of? We keep hearing the story that this is an existential threat to democracy, that if Ukraine falls, well, what's next? Well, that's the discredited domino theory. Remember South Vietnam falling to the communists in 1975? It was going to herald in the entire Asia bloc becoming communist. Well, in fact, the complete opposite has happened. In fact, Vietnam has almost a free market-based economy at this stage. China has adopted many free market reforms while retaining its repressive authoritarian state. But throughout Asia, there are vibrant, thriving democracies, not communist states. So the domino theory was discredited. But that's what these tired old idiots are falling back on. Well, if Ukraine goes, it's an existential threat to Europe. No, it's not. No, it's not. How can it be an existential threat to Europe? They're not in the European Union. They're not part of NATO, and they never should be. And why is Joe Biden giving $150 billion of our tax money to Ukraine to prolong a war that never should have happened in the first place? If Joe Biden had been such a feckless, callow, weak-willed coward who refused to take action when the Russians moved 70,000 troops to the border. If he had done a bilateral 18th Airborne exercise for 3 weeks in the summer of 2021, that would have sent a message and there would never have been an invasion. Never. Never, never, never. Deterrence works. What is he hiding in Ukraine? Is this about the special prosecutor that got fired? Is this about money that went through Burisma to his son and his brother and him? What is he hiding in Ukraine? Why is he so hell-bent on Ukraine? He will shut the border down if we give him money to give to his buddy in Ukraine. Where is the indictment? Where is the impeachment for Joe Biden for his phone call to Volodymyr Zelensky? Where is the indictment? Where is the impeachment? A bipartisan bill would be good for America and help fix our broken immigration system, allow speedy access for those who deserve to be here, and Congress needs to get it done, said Biden. No, our immigration system is not broken. People don't deserve to get here. No one deserves to get here. Being allowed to come here is a gift. No one deserves it. No one's entitled to it, Joe Biden. And our immigration system isn't broken. You are violating our immigration system and federal law and the Constitution at every turn. That's what's broken. That's what's broken, not the immigration system. Stop lying about it. I can find dozens of people who are naturalized American citizens right around my community. Proud American citizens who came here legally, who followed the process, who learned about America's history and civics, took the oath to support and defend the Constitution, and became American naturalized citizens. It's not broken. Scumbags like Joe Biden lie about this every day. Unbelievable. Well, folks, we're going to talk about Sparky here in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Let me get back to the chat for a moment and see what's going on over here. Depends on how you interpret it. What's this? I don't know what he's talking about there. Going to make 100 today. Well, I don't know if we got there. We'll go into the book of Black Invention, says Mark. What's he talking about there? I think this might be a larger war front, Russia, China. This would be rip U.S. Defense Force too thin. E-Doctor, I've talked about that. I've said the entire world is on fire. North Korea has ended diplomatic ties or diplomatic discussions with South Korea and mobilizing its border, firing intercontinental ballistic missiles, picking up the pace of testing them, China threatening Taiwan by firing live ammunition at its shore during a purported exercise, which endangered Taiwanese fishing fleets that had to return to shore rather than be sunk by the Chinese shooting at them, claiming it was an exercise. We've got Hamas terror conflict in Israel. We've got Ukraine going on. We've got the Houthis firing missiles into the Red Sea. We've got the Iranians seizing vessels in the Arabian Gulf. We've got the Iranians firing missiles into Syria, into Iraq, into Pakistan. The entire world is on fire, and it's all because of Joe Biden. None of the things I just talked about, not a single one of those was taking place. I didn't mention Myanmar and the war going on there. I didn't mention Cabo Delgado or Sudan or Niger or Mali or Burkina Faso, all of which are on fire, or Somalia, of course. Didn't mention any of those. Those ones were already underway before Joe Biden became president, but all the other ones are all when he became president. And he doesn't run the world, but his cowardly foreign policy sent a signal to troublemakers and malcontents the world over who know that now there's not a better time to act the fool than with the weakest president in the history of the United States sitting in the Oval Office. Mark says, imagine that. Imagine what? Anyway, so how can they be friends? Yeah, I already answered that. No, Courtney, BLM will not take up the cause for 3 black soldiers killed, and there won't be any protesters. They are complaining about U.S. having 3,000 military troops stationed in Jordan. 3,000 military troops stationed in Jordan. Did you know that, folks? Did you know that? Yep. What else we got here? Biden this time, yeah. Mm-hmm. Daniel Prinsloo's here. They sell weapons for petrol. Okay. Okay, Gus is here. Second name is Pinocchio. Yeah, exactly right. All right, so it's time for news on Sparky Bowman. You know Sparky Bowman. He's Jamal Bowman. Now, this guy who should be in prison, locked up as an insurrectionist for interfering with an official proceeding. I mean, that is the charge and the crime. That's the thing that people did on January 6th, right? They interfered with official proceeding. That's where Jamal Bowman should be, locked up in a D.C. jail, awaiting solitary confinement 23 hours a day, awaiting his conviction of 18 years for disrupting a vote in the House by pulling down a fire alarm. Sparky Bowman, also known as Jamal Bowman, been exposed for the fraud that he is. Yeah. People like this, these race hustlers, are vile, repulsive human beings. Representative Jamal Bowman, who was censured by the House for his Sparky incident, is in a little more hot water here. The Daily Beast reported he promoted conspiratorial theories regarding 9/11 on his blog when he was a high school principal. In 2011, when he served as principal at the Cornerstone Academy for Social Action. What the heck? Cornerstone Academy for Social Action? What is that, an indoctrination center? The Cornerstone Academy for Social Action? What are you, training friggin' street fighters here? His online journal included a section called Recapitulate, in which he mused that the collapse of the Building 7 on 9/11 came from a controlled demolition and cited the film's loose change and zeitgeist, the first of which claimed that the U.S. orchestrated the attacks, while the second, the Daily Beast writes, argues that a ring of global bankers controls the Federal Reserve and periodically contrives national tragedies to compel the U.S. government to embark on wars and take out greater debt. He denies this, of course, and says nobody read that stuff, so it's okay. Yeah, that just shows you what a dim bulb Mr. Bowman, Sparky Bowman, is. The United Parcel Service is cutting in the midst of this robust economy where it's just going gangbusters in America. Everything is great and wonderful here in America. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Joe. It's he brought us prosperity we could never imagine. Well, look at that. Matthew Dixon's still a member after 7 months. Well, so yeah, you're still a member. That's right, Matthew. Who would have thought? I think it's because you keep getting free memberships. YouTube algorithm loves to give Matthew free memberships. UPS is cutting 12,000 jobs. 12, not 1,200, not 12, 12,000 jobs. Yeah, the robust economy. Yeah, domestic international volumes declined from the previous year. UPS said Tuesday it plans to cut 12,000 jobs this year in a move that could save them $1 billion in salary. They have 85,000 workers in management. The cuts will be full-time and part-time management positions, contract workers, and executives. So, yeah. So, boy, that robust economy not working so well for those guys. Hey, folks, did you hear what Nancy Pelosi had to say? Nancy Pelosi scolds a pro-Hamas protester outside her home saying, go back to China. This is classic. I wonder if I can get to play here. Former Speaker of the House of Representatives and the spokesperson for the Visa credit card company, that's sarcasm, former Nancy Pelosi, former speaker, shouted back at anti-Israeli protesters outside her home, telling them at one point to go back to China and claiming that is where their headquarters were located. Oh, let's see if this comes out well. Let me play this real quick. This was on Rumble. Here we go.
The Democrats want the ceasefire. The Democrats...
Go back to China where your headquarters is. Let me come back with that. Here we go. Watch this again.
The Democrats want the ceasefire.
Go back to China where your headquarters is. Nancy Pelosi must be getting senile. She's lost the plot. It's hilarious. She's saying what she means in public. She used to hide that. It's hilarious. Nancy Pelosi's. Maybe some dementia's creeping in there for Nancy. Yeah, go back to China. That's where your headquarters is. Oh my goodness. Nancy Pelosi duking it out with the pro-Hamas crowd. So Alejandro Mayorkas, the inept, corrupt Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Yep. Key vote by the House to impeach him. House Republicans taking a key vote today toward impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over what they call his willful and systemic refusal to enforce immigration laws. But in a personal appeal, he argued they should instead be working on with the Biden administration on the border. The Homeland Security Committee is scheduled to vote on 2 articles of impeachment. The former federal prosecutor, who is the border control guy. So they will take it to the House floor shortly after that. Well, he responds. Alejandro Mayorkas says it's personal. Yep, he lashes out at the Republican Party ahead of the first impeachment vote. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas erupted at congressional Republicans today ahead of the first impeachment vote, saying he would not countenance political motivated accusations and personal attacks you have made against me. In a 7-page letter, he detailed his lengthy resume in public service and his role in managing the border over the last 3 years, which has been a disaster. And he said he'll keep at it even as Republicans press on. I assure you that your false accusations do not rattle me and do not divert me from the law enforcement and broader public service mission to which I've devoted most of my career and which I remain devoted. What you remain devoted to, Alejandro Mayorkas, is the undermining of national security and the criminal invasion of America. You have violated Title 42 for 2.5 years. You have violated U.S. immigration law. You have undermined our national security. You have transported people illegally on aviation in the United States without proper real ID, without proper identification. You have committed crimes against this nation, Alejandro Mayorkas. You can defend your title all you want. You can defend your career all you want, but you have undermined our national security intentionally to achieve goals for your political worldview. You shall be impeached, Alejandro Mayorkas. Get over it. Get over it. You shall be impeached. But it'll lose in the Senate because the Democrats control it, unless Republicans can hold on with his impeachment hearing until January when they take over the Senate, and then they can kick you to the curb. Yep, Alejandro Mayorkas should have been impeached 3 years ago. He never should have been elevated to a position like this. He is a disaster for the national security of this country, undermining our security at every turn. And he can defend himself all he wants, but he's full of it. Well, JP Morgan, their CEO, Jamie Dimon, is back in the news today talking about what have I talked about for years and years and years? This outrageous level of debt, which is 130% of our GDP now. It is insane. Insane. Or 113%. JP Morgan Chase Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon says the U.S. is speeding towards a cliff as the nation's runaway debt continues to mount, sounding the alarm that the situation needs to be tackled before it results in a crisis. He began his response by recalling how the economy looked back in 1982 with inflation at 12%, the prime rate around 21.5%, and unemployment somewhere around 10%. But the debt back then was just 35% of gross domestic product. He noted that today it's above 100% and is projected to reach 130 by 2035. Yep. There's Jamie Dimon telling Congress that we've got a problem. Well, thank you for that newsflash, Jamie Dimon, who revealed himself to be not a wokie, but you are a wokie with your DEI initiatives. Well, forget a soft landing. Economists are concerned that there may be no landing. Here's what it would mean for you. Well, the Federal Reserve's first meeting of the year, inflation continues to drift lower, but it's still rising. We still have more inflation. There's a chance central bank could achieve no landing scenario, where one economist says. Yep. Gross domestic product grew at a much faster than expected 3.3% rate in the fourth quarter, fueled by a solid job market and strong consumer spending. But inflation is still above the central bank's 2% target. Yeah, that means it opens the door to a no landing scenario. No landing means above trend growth and above trend inflation. So a rising cost and a rising economy. That's a bad situation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally time that somebody in San Francisco woke up and sued that corrupt administration for its racist and its unconstitutional action of paying handouts to people based on identity. Yep. San Franciscans sue to stop the cash handouts to Black, Hispanic, transgender residents. San Francisco's landmark initiative providing guaranteed cash to low-income Black and Hispanic transgender residents may be well-intentioned, but whether it's entirely legal is another question. Judicial Watch filed a lawsuit in San Francisco's Superior Court challenging the guaranteed income for trans people gift program on behalf of 3 taxpayers, saying it violates California law by discriminating based on race, ethnicity, sex, and gender identity. The transgender extremists running San Francisco are illegally using taxpayer money to hand out free cash to transgender individuals based on race and sex in blatant violation of the state's constitution, also the federal constitution. The Guaranteed Income Program, unveiled by Mayor London Breed back in November 2022, currently provides 55 low-income San Franciscans with $1,200 a month for 18 months on reloadable debit cards as long as they meet certain race and sex-based criteria. Wow, that's illegal. And they've gotten away with it since 2022. Well, Bob Casey, our senator here in Pennsylvania. Does anybody know who Bob Casey is? Anyone heard of Bob Casey? If you're not from Pennsylvania, you probably never heard the name before. And if you're in Pennsylvania, you probably forgot that Bob Casey was still alive. That's right, Bob Casey, the man that just loves to run for office. Well, he's actually looking out for Pennsylvanians for once. He actually introduced legislation last year to get rid of some of the junk fees that are tied to services here in Pennsylvania. But long overdue. He's only been in the Senate for 18 years. The Democrat has blamed higher prices. Oh, there's another super chat coming up. Blamed higher prices on corporate greed. Thank you for that, Courtney. $1.99. I'll get to that in a moment. $200 for an early cancellation fee from your cable and internet company. Security deposit administration fees of $300 to rent an apartment. $160 in airport concession fees, customer facility charges tacked onto a rental car. Yep, so-called junk fees from a variety of sectors cost an average Pennsylvania family hundreds of dollars every month. And I just talked about this, folks. I just talked about this when I showed you my utility and my cable bill a couple of days ago. They're all junk fees. They're just stealing money from people without providing a service. It's utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. And Courtney said, I still think President Biden will win in 2024. Well, you might be right. The mail-in thing has not been resolved. You might be very right. He won't win because he's popular, because people vote for him. He may win for another reason. Anyway, so there you go. Spirit Airlines customer has a meltdown. Okay, all right. Look, the stupidity of people is actually astounding when it comes to grocery stores and public services conveyance. I mean, look, if someone's never flown before, I can get it. But It's in English. It's on your boarding pass. It tells you the boarding time to show up at the gate. These customers showed up at a Spirit Airlines flight 2 minutes before the flight was departing, and they start banging on the door. It's hilarious. This is hilarious. Spirit Airlines passenger melts down Pounds Gate, showing up 2 minutes early. Not enough. Wow. Spirit Airlines passenger bound for San Juan showed up at the gate a couple minutes prior to scheduled departure and didn't understand why the boarding gate was closed. They weren't just there on time, they were early. And here you go. So that's, somebody's filming something here. And they're over there. And there you go, they start banging on the door. And they're trying to look for help. Anyway, I'm not going to share the whole video, but it just goes on for a minute and a half. And they bang on the door. So, View from the Wing, the leader in travel, says, what's the point of banging on the door? Who do they think is back there? Exactly, because it's a ramp that goes down to the plane. There's nobody on that ramp. It's not like the airline's management offices with someone who's there to make a change for them. And the departure time isn't the time you're supposed to show up. It's the time the plane is supposed to leave. Your airplane will be boarding generally 30 to 50 minutes prior to flight. Oh, my goodness. Well, Taylor Swift is drawing the attention of people on the far right, apparently, according to the media, claiming that there's a big conspiracy to get Taylor Swift to support Joe's administration. I don't know. I don't really care about Taylor Swift. I have no interest in her whatsoever. Her music is lame. She's full of it, and she is paler than Casper the Ghost. Taylor Swift draws the ire of conservatives after the Chiefs win the championship. Some right-wing pundits have suggested without evidence that all the hype around Swift could be part of an orchestrated plot to drum up hype for the Democratic Party. I like how NBC News says suggested without any evidence. It's a theory. Theories don't require evidence. You can have evidence, but they don't require evidence. Speaking of which, Stacey Abrams' claims in 2018, no basis, no foundation. Hillary Clinton's claims in 2016, no basis, no foundation. Al Gore's claims in 2000, no basis, no foundation. But these media outlets didn't say without any evidence. Yep, they just like to claim evidence. Well, the Washington Capitals of the National Hockey League and the Hershey Bears of the American Hockey League have renewed their partnership for another 6 years. It's mutually beneficial for both sides. The Caps have a really good situation with Hershey, and they're keeping it going. The Washington Capitals and Hershey Bears, their American Hockey League affiliate, have agreed to extend their affiliation for 6 years, the longest extension in the affiliation's history, which dates back to 2005. The current agreement was set to expire after the season, and the teams are now affiliated through the 2029-2030 season. The Bears' location in Hershey, Pennsylvania, just 2 hours up the interstate, makes the logistics of players moving between the two teams straightforward. But the long-term affiliation has much more to do with the shared philosophy than it does with a convenient location. Hershey's goal, first and foremost, is to have a competitive team, a top team in the league, and a team that competes every year for the Calder Cup. Yep, absolutely. The Bears have won 12 Calder Cups, 5 of them during their affiliation with Washington. That includes the past season when current Capitals players Connor McMichael, Alexei Protes, and Beck Malenstein were all playing for Hershey. Despite the fact of losing those top players, Hershey is on a rampant pace. They are 34 wins, 7 losses, 2 overtime losses, and a record pace for the season, just topping the league. And there you have it, folks. That's the news that I'm reporting for today. Thanks for joining me for the news. Let me get back to chat and see what's going on here. Right. What is bad? Hey, Spiker Hunt, how are you? Courtney says he lives across the street from a charter school with the majority of the students are refugees or sub-Saharan African refugees. Less than half of these kids graduate. Completely pathetic. I don't know what school you're talking about. I don't know anything about that. I suspect that these kids are from sub-Saharan Africa. They probably don't speak English for beans, and that probably contributes to what's going on. Where are you getting your statistics from? And who runs the school? I have lots of questions there, Courtney. You just opened up a whole can of worms there. What do I think of Boris Johnson's stance in encouraging conscription? I think conscription is idiotic. It's only for communist countries. There's no need for conscription in a modern representative democracy. People can volunteer to serve. Never been a fan of conscription. I was not conscripted. I volunteered. And I think you get a much better force when a professional force is like that. Hey, Scott Cummings. How you doing? Good to see you there. John Jarvis said, that's untrue. Ask Chris if you don't believe me. What did Jan say? Okay. People cannot relate to white African refugees, sadly, especially not in Canada. Okay. There was a case in Canada of white African refugee status that failed miserably. That's unfortunate. The basis for the international norm for refugee status is well-founded, and there are South Africans who can legitimately claim that. Babi Judeo Quran could have asked for refugee status abroad. Many people could have. 100 likes. Oh, we're up to 100 likes. Cool beans. Cool beans. It does sound like the end of times, doesn't it, Debbie? But it's not. It's not the end of times. We just got to get rid of the communists. Scott says, what is your take on military branch of the Army and Navy not requiring even a GED to be recruited? Idiocracy is becoming documented. Well, look, Scott, it's not the first time. The Army has lowered its standards at least twice while I was in the military to allow people without high school diplomas or general equivalency degrees to enter. It's a rare situation, only in desperate times, that they do that. For the longest time, I could proudly say that every single person serving the United States Army was a high school graduate or higher. We were the most highly educated body in the world, with everyone having a high school degree. A fair portion of our force, about 25% or more of our force having degrees. All officers have a bachelor's degree at a minimum, except for maybe lieutenants who have 2 years of college, but they must complete their 4-year degree by 8 years or they're out. So essentially all officers have a university degree. Many of them have a postgraduate degree, particularly as they go up the ranks, because it's necessary to get promoted to show that you advance your education. And even enlisted, we have a fair number of enlisted who have bachelor's or master's degrees, and we've had a few PhDs enlisted as well. We have a number of PhDs in the Army. Yep. So what do I think about them lowering the standards? I didn't see the Army as lowering its standards. I did see that the Navy is lowering its recruiting standards, but they have no choice. Ladies and gentlemen, only 18% of adults graduating from high school are even eligible to join the military owing to criminal activity, owing to obesity, owing to a host of other factors that make them ineligible to serve in uniform. So we're already working out of every 100 kids in school, we only get to talk to 18 to ask them to join the military. Of those 18, if we get 2, that's pretty impressive. So, yeah. Yep. I heard on other news stream earlier today that you can now buy babies from Ukraine. I don't know anything about that, doctor. I don't know what you're talking about. Never heard that. You can buy babies everywhere. People do that. It's unfortunate. Remember San Francisco 1980s, 1990s was upscale and sophisticated. Rival New York and Boston was Cape Town, North America. Well, it didn't rival New York and Boston. It was better than New York and Boston in my view. I was in San Francisco in 1989. It was heaven on earth. It was an amazing place. I absolutely loved San Francisco in 1989. What an incredible city it was. I was there 1 month prior to the quake, the earthquake that leveled the city. Well, leveled parts of the city. Yeah, that was an incredible experience. It was just before I went to officer basic course at Fort Huachuca on my way across the country, came down, went west across the northern part of the United States, then down the west coast, and was in San Francisco 1 month to the day before the earthquake happened. A month later, I was in Arizona. Yeah, incredible place. I went back to San Francisco for the Rugby Sevens World Cup. When was that? 2018, and it was a total crap fest. A total crap fest. San Francisco was a disgrace. Feces on the street, hypodermic needles on the street, next to upscale hotels, prostitutes, toothless prostitutes all over the place, rats the size of raccoons running around everywhere. Unbelievable, filthy, disgusting, despicable. Cops walking around with their guts hanging out and their buttons not buttoned on their shirts and food stains on it, pants hanging down below their huge waist. Their cop cars with rust and dents in them. It was just no pride whatsoever in anything. Isn't it funny that San Francisco, the city that's known for its tolerance of the gay community and gay pride, the police have no pride in their own uniform and service. Yep, no one has pride about that city. It's a crap hole, absolute crap hole. Plan to vote in November. Unfortunately, this may benefit Trump more than anything, but I don't like either candidate. Well, you don't have to like him. I don't like people. I still vote. Arctic is leaving somebody behind. Who's he talking about? Prohibition as in whiskey. What? Do you touch on touchy subjects? Just saw a lot of UFO released disclosed info. What's a touchy subject, doctor? I touch on all kinds of things. I talk race, I talk politics, I talk religion, I talk culture, travel. Anyway, I mean, give me the subject. You talk UFOs. UFOs exist. It's an unidentified flying object. We see them all the time in the air. Does it mean they're little green men from Mars? No, there's no people on Mars. There's no creatures on Mars. We found no life on Mars. However, I do firmly believe that we'll find a form of life in the oceans under the ice caps of Enceladus, and potentially on other moons in the solar system we'll find life existing right now, if only we had the means to do it. I can't wait for an Enceladus probe to land and drill down through the ice cap and find life. Anyway, but yeah, anything in the sky that's not seen, you can't identify it as an unidentified flying object. So, ANC imported illegals with the elections. Well, the Democratic Party is doing the same thing. Just starting to use primaries to allow the voters to choose a candidate for local election in Devon. Okay, thank you for that, Keith. Appreciate that. Okay. By recruiting people from lower socioeconomic background, the amount of incidents will increase. Yep, that's true. I think what you're trying to say is sexual assault and rape prevention. Is that what you're trying to say? You got SARP. I think you mean S-A-R-P. SARP. Anything new on Oprah? No, haven't heard about her. I'm an enlisted sailor, bachelor's degree. Yeah, see, there you go. He's a bachelor's degree. Yep. We were there in 1990. What a place. Oh, Ken, you told me San Francisco. It was incredible in 1990. A beautiful, beautiful town. Living across the bay from San Francisco in 89, I was in the 3rd grade. My dad was working in the financial district. Took him 2 days to get home. Yeah, traffic was bad, huh? Oh, you mean from the earthquake. Wow. Wow, that was probably scary then, Courtney. That was pretty scary. Thanks, not any times, just communist enemies of the people. Yep. John says, you don't have to be educated to fight for your country. Trust me, I know. No, you don't, John. You don't. But you need people who have the ability to be educated. You need functionally literate people. You don't have to have a master's degree to be a tanker or to be, a military policeman. But you do need to be able to read and write. You do need to be able to function in society. I mean, the artillery rounds we have markings on them. If you can't read them, you've got a problem. The radios require a certain degree of sophistication, which requires the ability to read and understand English. So you do have to have some education. Hence the reason why we required high school diplomas. Oprah went into hiding after the Hawaii. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, after the Hawaii debacle over that property out there. Yeah, that's right. She's been very quiet since then. Sausalito. Well, that's in the San Francisco Bay Area. 5 Signals Regiment had people with 3rd languages, so it was very European international. Okay. Cool beans for that. Yeah, no, I was in the Signal Corps. Charlie Company 8th Signal Battalion. My rig for a long time was Charlie 212. Signal's best relay, we used to call ourselves. Charlie 212. In fact, I think I've shown a picture of myself from back in the day with my rig. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Let me go to Google. Okay, got to switch to the other account. There it is. Excuse me. So here we go. All right. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, show you a picture of my vehicle when I was in the 8th Signal Battalion. Is it here? There it is. Cool beans. So I hear another helicopter, man. Right. Okay. Here we go. This is 1985, if I remember correctly. It might be 86. I'm trying to remember. But I'm not certain. I'd have to look at the actual photo, which I don't have handy. So let me get this picture up here and you'll see it. There you go. Okay. It's a little bit out of proportion there, but that's my rig. 1980s. I'm sitting on it up on Grosser Feldberg, which was a hilltop in above Frankfurt, which is where the TV towers are at. And so the communication shelter's on the back. There's the Dodge pickup truck we had, M880s. And we would pull a trailer, which would have our generators covered with canvas, 2 5 kW generators, plus our antennas, which came in these launchers. Kind of look like rocket launchers, but they were just antennas. Yeah, Garrett, I did see that Rip Curl ditched their sponsorship of famous surfer. I wasn't going to cover that story today, but I did see that earlier. Yep. 524 Troop Palaboa at a camp inside the Recce base. Okay. South Africa is committed to implementation of international law, says Sir Ramaphosa. Yeah, sure they are. Sure they are. Used to do the laundry and linen for the Oprah Winfrey Academy in Henley and Clip. Still have a Paracle cotton pillowcase. Wow. Napa Valley. Yeah, Napa Valley. That's right on the other side of San Francisco there. It's a lovely area there. Brother was in the Signals. They had to run with that radio in his back when they were in battle. No, the radios I had, you couldn't carry in your back. They're huge. They're too much for a human to carry. They're also stationary. Running around with them doesn't do anything. You have to put them in. It's a line of sight. You have a antenna that opens up like this with little, poles in it to pick up the signal. And you have a dipole in the center. And then you point that thing, and it goes up to 50, I think it's 50 kilometers, yeah. Signal jamming. Yeah, I'm also familiar with that because after being a signals soldier, I became an intelligence professional, and jamming is something I'm also familiar with. Yep. Well, we've had quite an audience here today and a bunch of super chats. A bunch of little ones, but super chats nonetheless. Thank you for them. As we're getting ready to close out this. What the heck? A page will load. There we go. Close out this month. So I'm just trying to see if this revenue thing will come up now. They change it. It sucks. I mean, I liked it because I could see what happened the previous month. Now I can't do that. I have to go look and see what got deposited in my account. I don't like that. Oh, he was young. Who, me? I was young? Yeah, I was very young. What we did not get was debriefing after any contact. Many of us are of you are in trouble. Huh? No war memorials in South Africa for the border war. Of course, well, there are a few. There's one at the Fort Trekker Monument has a memorial to people from the Bush War. But yeah, there aren't many of them. It's because the Bush War, there wasn't time. People didn't put them up, and people be accused of being racist if they put that stuff up now. So it just doesn't happen. Yep, it just doesn't happen. Anyway, that's the reality. Alrighty, folks. What questions you got? Anybody a question here? We've got lots coming up. Next primary is just a matter of days away. It's actually a caucus for the Republicans in early February in Nevada. And Nikki Haley's not even in the consideration there. E-Doctor says, by the way, hi from South Africa. Where in South Africa, E-Doctor? Dave says, thank you for your time and the effort you put into this. Well, you're very welcome, Dave. It's nice to be able to share with people, and also, like earlier, the point was made about the $6 billion to Iran. It's a good point, but as I said, it's incomplete story, and that's because the media run with it, and the people read the media, and instead of analyzing the whole situation. Now, the information was all there, but much like the Washington Post article, it said, Israel does a commando raid inside a hospital and kills 3 people. They weren't 3 people; they were 3 terrorists. It says that lower in the story, but the lead title is misleading, and they do that intentionally. The Ukraine war will not end for 3 to 5 years was my prediction the day that it started, and I stand by that. It started in 2022, correct? 2022. And it's now 2 years old. So don't expect it to end for another year to 3 years. Yep. As long as Joe Biden and Jens Stoltenberg fuel a proxy war in Ukraine, it's not going to end. If Ukraine was not getting all this national treasure from the United States, from the UK, from Germany, from France, from Sweden now, apparently from Finland and from Estonia, it would not have been able to sustain this combat. Eventually, Ukraine will run out of young men that it can send to be killed in combat, and it won't matter how much equipment they have, they'll simply have to collapse. What's being done with Alcatraz? It's a museum, if I'm not mistaken. No, I've heard nothing, no update on that bill in South Africa, Dave. Sorry. Little Miss Know-It-All likes old and grumpy. Well, that's Matthew. He's old and grumpy. Too important for the American economy. No, it's not, Ken. It's not. Okay. Okay. All right. According to government figures, the amount of military aid given to Ukraine is in the order of 50 to 60 billion. I think the number is actually higher. The total aid is 140 some billion. So $60 billion over 2 years. That's $30 billion a year. Okay? These are rough back of the envelope figures. Okay? We'll just scratch this on the back of the envelope here. So there you go. $30 billion per year. $30 billion per year. $30 billion. What's the size of the U.S. economy? 23 trillion? Is that what it is? Let's take a look what the most recent figures are. Okay, See what we got in 2023. $27 trillion. $27 trillion. GDP. All right? GDP, $27 trillion. Let me get a calculator here. Calculator. So that's 30 billion. 30 billion, okay, divided by 27. It's going to be hard to do. 360,000. 100 million. Okay, it's 100 million. 1 billion. That's not right. I got it wrong. Too many. Anyway, it's a rounding error. It's almost nothing in the U.S. economy. $30 billion is nothing in a $27.36 trillion economy. And yes, you can argue there are ancillary industries and jobs related and service industry and suppliers and all this stuff. But still, all of that together, the U.S. doesn't need to be making artillery rounds for Ukraine. We don't. Doesn't help our economy. Watch Legacy Conversations all about Recce. Okay, Petra, thanks for sharing that. 60-second battalion, yeah. Yep, 60-second mech. Yeah, 20th year interim between World War I and War II was just time for nations to replenish their respective militaries. It was just one war with a 20-year replenishment. Okay. Yes, Ken is talking about the military-industrial complex. I got that. But no such thing exists. I spent 36 years in the military. It's a term that Eisenhower coined at a time when 70% of the nation's budget had been geared towards national defense. And a huge percentage of our GDP, 12-15% of our GDP, was geared towards national defense. That's a legitimate argument. But we spend less than 4% of our national economy on national defense. It's not even remotely the same sort of thing. But people like that phrase. They like the military-industrial complex, and they talk about this all the time. I've worked with these contractors, these actors. It's not like watching Reacher. By the way, did anyone watch Reacher? Oh my goodness. What a terrible second season. The first season was incredible. The second season's a joke. I mean, it's all the stereotypes, all the nonsense. You got guys walking around in uniform with beards on. With like 2-week growth on their face. You don't do that in uniform. That doesn't happen. You got people wearing ranking correctly. You got people calling each other by their first name in uniform. It's ridiculous. It seemed like Reacher season 2 was all about upping ante, it's like watching John Wick, which succeeded by killing more people in a crazier fashion. Well, Reacher season 2 killed more people, a lot more people, and not in a particularly good fashion, and not in a convincing fashion. Whereas that was the case with John Wick. The John Wick movies have been pretty good. You love Reacher? What? The end of the first season and the second season? I thought the entire second season was a joke. They gloat about their economic prowess, but it's all government spending. Correct. It's all government spending. No, Ken says thanks for clarifying. No worries, Ken. Listen, I mean, look. There is no doubt that defense contractors have influence with the government. No doubt about it. But it's not what drives the U.S. economy. What drives the U.S. economy is the service industry and innovation and technology. 2/3 of our economy is service industry. 16% is manufacturing, 18%. Yeah, so the defense industrial thing is not nearly as big as people make it out to be. But all those sectors have influence. The farming sector is a big part of the economy, and they influence Congress, and they have influence on the government at all levels in every state. So lots of people. The sporting industry, I mean, all these sports, outdoor sports, hunting, which of course includes guns and bows and equipment and camo and campers and recreational vehicles and all that, that has influence. Then on top of that, you've got the sports industry itself with Major League Sports, minor league sports. We have minor league baseball teams all over this country. We have Major League Baseball, hockey, basketball, rugby, everything, because the list goes on and on and on. It's a fraction of a percentage. Yeah, omit the zeros. You're correct. Yeah, that's what I should have just done. Should have just done that. But if I did that, I have to make the 30 billion a point something. Yep. So, read many books on Reacher. I haven't read any of the Reacher books. Yep. The only time I call anyone much by the first name is if they are the same rank as me. Yep, and even then, I didn't do it in uniform. Still call people by their title. Yep. Dave agrees with me. Second season was not good. And the second season was disaster, man. From my perspective, I mean, look, it was popcorn watchable. You can watch it. You can watch. It's a guilty pleasure, but the first season was brilliant. It was well written, well executed. The acting was incredible. This time he looked like a robot, all about showing off his pecs. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous this season. Yep. Ken says we can only judge by what we're told. Well, no, Ken. And again, you don't have to believe what I just told you. But now you've had some contradictory information. You can go look for it. Okay. Let me defense. Looking for defense acquisition. I think I put the right term in there. Okay, March 10th of last year. This is the 2023 for 2024 budget. Okay. Military budget in the United States is the largest portion of discretionary spending available to the government. Where's that? Come on, where's that here? Oh, here we go. Now, this is Wikipedia, but this is stripped from government documents, okay? So let me find defense acquisition. Where's acquisition here? Construction, procurement. Come on. There's different categories. Discretionary spending. Procurement. Where's procurement? Okay, come on. Where's this thing at? Oh, there it is. I got it. Okay, ready for this? Okay, here you go. Here we go. So this says, okay, here we go. Let me blow this up so you can see it better. So you can see it on the screen because you're not going to be able to read this as tiny as it is. Okay, so here we go. All right, let's see if this works. You ready for this? Here we go. Get ready for this. Here we go. So this is defense spending. A little hard to see there. All right, so this is comparing it 2021 with projections. Now this isn't, whoops, what's that? Courtney. Yeah, did I watch Man in the High Castle? I did, but I lost interest in it pretty quickly. It wasn't that great. People loved it, but it wasn't that great. So now these are projections. So this isn't the current. I have to go look. But this says the projected budget for military personnel was $171 billion for salaries in this year. Last year was $162 billion last year. That's the third column from the right. Okay, $162 billion. Operations and maintenance. Operations and maintenance is O&M budget. That's what you need to buy fuel, to buy rations, to fix toilets, to fix runways, repairways. That total was $282 billion for this year. So almost $300 billion to pay for that. Procurement, $149 billion. So procurement, $149 billion. But that's all of defense. That's not for Ukraine. That's all of defense. And that still comes out of a $27 trillion economy, $149 billion. Now, that procurement isn't just defense stuff. That includes Microsoft software. It includes Apple computers. It includes tablets. It includes chairs. It includes desktops. It includes furniture. It includes carpets. All of that stuff that's under procurement, not just weapon systems. Research and development, that's $101 billion. That's not insignificant, but that leads to all kinds of innovations. The medical bill, the Department of Defense bill for medical, $697 is that $1 billion? Is that right? Yeah. That can't be right. No, okay, I'm sorry, I got this wrong. Yeah, it's billion. It's $697 billion. That doesn't sound right. That can't be right. The entire thing is only $800 billion. Anyway, but that's the single. Here's the DO bill with, okay, that's the single biggest expense. Yep. Maybe that's $79 billion. Maybe the columns are wrong. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, it's not a whole lot is the point. Yeah, not a whole lot. Oh, here we go. Now we got it. Okay. All right. So personnel 143 in 2019. We're going back a few years. Operations maintenance 278. Procurement 147. Research development 95. And then Medicare eligible retirees 7,500. And then military construction, 9,000, so that's 9.6 billion. Family housing, 1.5 billion. Military construction bill, 11 billion. Yep. So there you go. But the medical is, It's a lot of money. A lot of money. Military personnel, this is 2019 again, 140 billion for salaries, and then health program, education, housing. Yeah, so anyway, there you go. Overseas contingency funding, 46. This is Operation Freedom Sentinel, Operation Inherent Resolve, European Deterrence Initiative. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so that's the military budget for that. So, yep. Anyway, so it's not nearly as much as people believe it is. Just really isn't. It's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of money, folks. A lot of money. Revenue tab is broken on this thing. Doesn't give me the information I need anymore. That's very irritating. YouTube. Very irritating. Anyway, so am I not live anymore? What's going on? Did I get cut off? Oh, there I am. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So Russia talking about placing nukes close to U.S. and Cuba. Well, that's not smart. That's not smart. Thanks, One Eyes First. Yeah, you can find it. Seen the trailer for Roadhouse? I have not. Is this a remake of Roadhouse, the one with Patrick Swayze? This have to run. Enjoy your evening. Does that mean scramjets only need missiles capable of Mach 4 to take out the hypersonic? No idea. Most glaring issue is the interest we pay on the debt is more than defense spent. No, that's not true, Scott. That's not true. That's not true. Total, I think it's a couple $100 billion. Interest payment on national debt. Okay. Oh, you're right. It is high. Well, I'm looking at the wrong number here. Wow, not as high as that. That's CNN's got it wrong. Congressional Budget Office released its updated budget for economic projections. Interest payments on the debt were $474 billion in fiscal 22, the highest amount ever. But now they're even higher. That's the problem. Where's this at? Washington Post story from October, but that's still lower than the national defense. Federal government's interest payments are a record high and among the country's largest annual expenditures now. It was just $275 billion a couple years ago. U.S. government spent $659 billion this year paying off interest on its debt. Now, what's really frightening about that is that much of that debt is at less than 1% of interest. Imagine when that climbs up to 4 or 5%. My goodness. Federal government spends more than it collects in tax revenue. The Treasury Department issues new debt to cover the rest of its payment obligations. That debt must be repaid with interest. That grows as time goes by. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, so it was $262 billion in 2017. I guess that's the figure I was working off of, 2017. So 262 right here, billion, and now it's 659. Look at that. It's doubled. It is doubled, almost double what we're paying in the time that Joe Biden's been president, the interest on the debt. Now, some of that's not his fault. That was money that we borrowed years ago. But look at that. Look, that's insane. That's insane. Let me blow that up so you can see it a little bit better. That's the interest payments on the debt. Look at that. $659 billion. Nothing. John Steenhuisen spoke his mind. Nothing wrong with the wording of drunkards. Well, no, he's welcome to say it, but if he doesn't think there's not going to be a political backlash, he's very naive. It's not over $800 billion yet, Scott. And the defense budget's over $800 billion. Yeah, that's a cool $1.25 trillion. It's crazy. And I've been arguing about this for 30 years. It's really pissed me off. 23 trillion is hard to make. It is, Dave. It's crazy to imagine that. My brothers were... Why does Patriot keep saying that? Okay. Yep. Anyway. Yep, that's the hazards of living on debt. Being drunk on debt. Speaking of drunkards, the federal government is a bunch of drunkards. Yep, they are a bunch of drunkards. Yep, that's really scary here. It's all going to come crashing down is what's going to happen. We're going to have to devalue our currency. And when we devalue our currency, it's all over then, man. It's all over then. When we devalue our currency, oof. That's going to be the end of everything. That's going to be the end of everything. Growing exponentially. We'll rate $100 billion this year. We're adding $1 trillion every 4 months. $1 trillion of new debt. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Yeah. These people are irresponsible beyond belief. And when this country collapses, I hope they go looking for these people to prosecute them for their irresponsibility. All right, folks, let me wrap it up here. Been over 2 hours. Great audience. I got some good likes here, some revenue, some new members, because people paying for membership. Appreciate that. Thank you all so much. Have a lovely day. I need to take a break, get something to eat. I'm famished here. I haven't eaten. I ate late last night after a long day. So thank you so much. Yes, according to McBride, the Trump administration did increase the national debt because of obligatory spending they had no control over. And this is the problem. Congress must change laws for Social Security. They must change laws for Medicare and Medicaid. They must change laws that oblige us to pay things that we don't have money for. When they do that, then the deficit can come down. But right now, the president has very little control of the budget. So 80%, 82% of the budget is non-discretionary. So Trump didn't add to the debt. He had nothing. And Biden, you can say the same thing. However, Trump did add debt by giving those payouts to people, which was unwarranted. And Biden did the same thing. So, yeah. Yep, that's right. So, yeah, there's no denying that, Courtney. Trump had $500-600 billion deficits every year. There's no doubt about it. But Trump couldn't cut Social Security payments. Biden can't cut Social Security payments. Congress has to do that. Yep. Anyway, have a good day, folks. Thanks a lot. They're coming for me. There's a fixed wing plane. They've already tried me with the helicopter. Now the fixed wing plane's coming. Humor for those that don't get that. Go Army. All right. Have a good night, and we'll catch you guys later. I need a break. I'm tired. Cheers, everybody. Thanks a lot for your patronage and for being here, for your likes, for your interaction. Do appreciate it. Welcome to the new viewers. So I'm glad you discovered the channel, and I hope that you find it to your liking. A lot of content on this channel from all sorts of topics. And don't forget my other channel, @Real Chris Wyatt. Cheers, everybody.